Chapter 50. Oh no! Bai Jishi's face turned pale as she flew up into the air. 9 furry tails appeared out of thin air behind her, emitting dazzling spiritual light. Bang! However, Bai Jishi was only in the Xinqing stage. How could she block the attack of a Paoang stage expert? The rain of swords rained down, instantly creating a bloody scene. Bai Jishi's figure fell from the sky and landed in front of Ling Xiao. At this moment, there were many sword marks on her body. She looked a little pitiful. Damn it. Hey, you should run. I'll stop him for a while. Bai Jishi turned her head and looked at Ling Xiao. Her pair of pink eyes revealed a dignified look. Ling Xiao frowned slightly and laughed coldly in his heart. Indeed, the people of destiny were all righteous and righteous. She was about to die, but she still had the mood to care about the life of others. 9 Tails, the Heavenly Fox Clan? Among the 9 kings of the 10,000 demons' sacred ground, the Heavenly Fox Clan had always been aloof from worldly affairs. But the expert from the Blood Soul Temple in front of him was clearly here for this little girl. Was he coveting her talent? What are you waiting for? He's here to kill me. You should run. Humph, I'm not afraid of death. Bai Jishi snorted coldly. There was a hint of arrogance in her pale face. She was obviously cheering herself up. It was obvious that the white-robed swordsman had come prepared. No matter how hard she tried to run, she would not be able to escape from him. However, Ling Xiao did not move. The Tao of the Void on Bai Jishi was also very tempting to him. The power of the Void was one of the most mysterious among the 3,000 Tao of the Void. With 2,000 Providence points, this little girl would not die so easily. Perhaps he could take this opportunity to suppress the demonic will. The protection of the heavenly Tao was all about karma. Since he was here, he might be the little girl's chance of survival. Buzz! The space fluctuated, and the white-robed swordsman reappeared in the air. There was a hint of mockery in his eyes. You idiot, why don't you run? I won't have time to take care of you when we fight later. Bai Jishi gritted her teeth and looked up at the expert from the Blood Soul Temple. Did the Ashwolf clan send you here? Back in the Shenzhou continent, Bai Jishi had experienced many assassination attempts. The Heavenly Fox clan did not have many enemies. The only clan that had a conflict of interest was the Howling Moon Ashwolf clan. The 3 sovereigns of the 10,000 demons' holy land ruled over the 10,000 races. As for the remaining 9 kings, they each had their own way of ruling over the mountains and rivers. Among them, the territories of the Heavenly Fox clan and the Grey Wolf clan were adjacent to each other and often had conflicts. This was especially so for Bai Jishi, who was known as the most talented member of the 9-tailed fox clan. She had awakened the Tao Law of the Void at the age of 14. She was bound to become a paragon in the future. The Howling Moon Ashwolf clan would definitely not allow him to grow. A dead man doesn't need to know too much. The white-robed swordsman sneered, and the ancient sword in his hand shone with a mysterious light again. Dark clouds gathered with a loud rumble, and the sound of thunder spread across thousands of miles. Even the space within a radius of 100 miles was locked down by a piercingly cold sword intent. Obviously, he didn't intend to give Bai Jishi a chance to escape. Sword Tao origin? This white-robed swordsman has actually comprehended Tao laws as well. A hint of surprise flashed through Ling Xiao's eyes. From this swordsman, he felt a terrifying sharpness that could kill heaven and earth. It was faintly mixed with a trace of Tao origin. It seemed that in order to kill Bai Jishi, the Blood Soul Temple had paid a huge price. However, what made Ling Xiao a little puzzled was how the white-robed swordsman broke through the shackles of the realm and descended with his true body. One had to know that when he and Elder Een descended to the realm, they had obtained a boundary-breaking talisman from his mother. The value of this item was comparable to that of a divine treasure. Although Ling Xiao did not know where his mother had obtained such a divine item, it was obvious that there were not many people in the Shenzhou continent who could possess such a divine item. Moreover, the higher one's cultivation, the easier it was to be rejected by the realm. If one was not careful, one could be crushed to pieces. Ling Xiao could understand why Bai Jishi was able to break through the shackles. After all, She had comprehended the Tao of the void, and her control of space was incomparable to that of ordinary people. The white-robed swordsman had also comprehended the Tao of the void. Logically speaking, it was impossible for him to easily avoid the prying eyes of the blood-souled temple and descend here. Unknowingly, Ling Xiao seemed to smell a hint of a conspiracy. Die! In the sky, a large sword slashed down furiously. Golden light flowed on it, and Tao patterns appeared, containing the Tao of the great Tao. The speed of the sword was not fast, but it made people feel that there was no way to avoid it. Bai Jishi's small face was cold. Knowing that she could not avoid it, she suddenly lifted her foot and kicked Ling Xiao hard. Run! At this moment, she was still worried about him. Ling Xiao suddenly laughed. How could he not see that if the sword fell, Bai Jishi would be seriously injured, if not killed? How could Ling Xiao miss such a perfect opportunity to be a hero and save the damsel in distress? The Nine-Tailed Fox clan was a peerless beauty in the world. Everyone knew that the Fox clan was seductive, but they were always loyal once they were tempted. This little girl was talented and had a lot of luck. Wouldn't it be better to subdue her and raise her as a childhood sweetheart? Suddenly, a wisp of demonic intent quietly spread between heaven and earth. The blue sky was bright, and the sun was bright in an instant. Buzz! Unparalleled sword intent fell from the sky like the Milky Way. The clouds shattered and the universe reversed, instantly covering the entire mountain range. Bai Jishi clenched her silver teeth, and a red furnace appeared in her hand. It also had a strange color, and flames seemed to rise in the void. A Tao artifact. With just a glance, Ling Xiao felt the horror of the red furnace. Although a Tao artifact was powerful, it depended on who had it. Bai Jishi was talented, but her cultivation level was too low. If she was given a few more years to grow, no one in the Shengzhou would be a match for her. But now, the flames on the red furnace quickly drowned out, and that unparalleled sword intent finally fell on Bai Jishi's body at this time. Boom! The entire barren mountain trembled for a moment. Hundreds of feet of cracks spread from the top of the mountain to the foot of the mountain, shocking all living things. However, there was no joy on the face of the white-robed swordsman. In fact, there was a hint of surprise. The spiritual light in the sky dimmed, revealing a dark and imposing figure. Bai Jishi closed her eyes tightly, and her small face was extremely pale. However, after waiting for a long time, the sword intent still did not fall. Bai Jishi opened her eyes in confusion, only to see a figure shrouded in demonic light in front of her, holding the sword intent firmly in his hand. Who was this? How could there be such a strong person in the Four Barren Lands? How could he block the sword intent of the delusion swordsman with just his physical body? How could it be? At this moment, Bai Jishi's eyes suddenly widened, and her small face was full of shock. This demonic aura above her head, a hint of fear flashed across the face of the white-robed swordsman. Then, he seemed to have thought of something, and a sudden burst of fear and shock appeared in the depths of his eyes. This is, so the person the sacred elder was talking about is you. Chapter 51. Bai Jishi covered her mouth. Her face was completely sluggish. Ling Xiao turned to look at her. His eyes were as deep as the most terrifying abyss in the world. There was no emotion in them. There was only endless killing. How can this be? Bai Jishi's body trembled. She instinctively stepped back. At that moment, she felt that this demon was 1,000 times more dangerous than the white-robed swordsman. Who exactly are you? The white-robed swordsman looked at the figure wrapped in demonic qi seriously. Even though he was in the Paong state, he could feel a chill coming from him. How could there be such a demon in the Four Barren Lands? I don't care who you are. Since I have met you, I will kill you first. The white-robed swordsman felt that Ling Xiao was terrifying. However, in the Four Barren Lands, the most powerful cultivators were only at the Paong state. He had already understood a bit of the Tao. Why would he be afraid of a demon? It was not that he was arrogant. It could only be said that those who did not know were not afraid. He raised his ancient sword. A trace of sword intent started to whistle. However, A cold smile appeared on Ling Xiao's face. Then, he took a deep breath and let out a roar towards the sky. Roar! The sky demon's demonic chi rushed into the sky. The world shook and no light came from it. There was no light in the entire barren mountain. Dark clouds covered the city. It was as if they could touch it. Thunder rumbled and fell to the ground. At that moment, all the powerful cultivators in the 4 barren lands looked at the dark clouds in the sky in shock. They were terrified. Is this the birth of a demon? In Green Maple City, Yi Qingchan crossed her arms in front of her chest. Her beautiful eyes looked up at the sky. There was a trace of sadness between her eyebrows. Sir, where are you? Why are you not back yet? At the border between the East and North Barren Lands, a figure wrapped in a black robe also stopped. A trace of ruthlessness flashed in his eyes. Even the heavens know that I am going to obtain the fortune in the ancient land of demon suppression. Just you wait, Ling Xiao. Just you wait, Yi Clan. I will personally crush all of you. As soon as he finished speaking, the black-robed figure glanced at the ancient map in his hand, and then he didn't hesitate to directly walk into a gorge that was filled with boundless devil insight and death energy. How is this possible? The white-robed swordsman looked at the demonic figure below him, and a trace of panic finally appeared on his face. At this time, he could feel that his mind was being corroded by the devil will, and he unconsciously had some crazy thoughts of killing. Impossible. He was a Paong cultivator, and his state of mind was as calm as still water. How could a mere demonic will make him lose himself? Die. However, before he could think too much about it, the demonic silhouette beneath him suddenly extended a hand and gently clenched it toward him. Ka-ka-ka. The sound of grinding stone could be heard. What was strange was that the space around the white-robed swordsman seemed to be grasped by the demonic creature and instantly collapsed. No. At the crucial moment, the white-robed swordsman swung the ancient sword in his hand horizontally, and with an unparalleled force, he cut open a crack in the space. His figure instantly swept out, and when he looked back, the entire space had been completely crushed by a huge force. What kind of power is this? At this moment, the white-robed swordsman's face finally turned completely pale. As expected of an expert who has mastered the law of Tao, Ling Xiao smiled eerily, but his figure suddenly disappeared from a spot. The white-robed swordsman instantly swung his sword and slashed at the space behind him. However, the moment the ancient sword in his hand fell, he suddenly froze on the spot. Ling Xiao's figure slowly appeared in midair. A hand covered in demonic chi tightly grasped the sword blade. Then, under the shocked gaze of the swordsman, the sword was crushed in the palm of his hand. Pucci! The white-robed swordsman's mind was instantly injured when his natal spiritual treasure was crushed. He fiercely gritted his teeth and didn't dare to hesitate at all as he turned to leave. Do you think you can leave? Ling Xiao shook his head. The reason why he didn't hesitate to expose his demonic body was because he had taken a fancy to the law of sword Dao on this swordsman. Moreover, this swordsman's experience in the lower realm was really strange, so Ling Xiao naturally didn't dare to let him leave. Die. The space was imprisoned again. No matter how hard the white-robed swordsman struggled, he was still tightly bound by a strange force in the end. Feeling the pressure around him, the swordsman's eyes widened, and a trace of determination flashed across his eyes. He actually abandoned his physical body and wanted to escape in the form of his divine soul. Finally out, Ling Xiao's lips curled into a smile. With his sky demon true body's second refinement stage, he was born with great strength, and it wouldn't be too much trouble to kill a person in the illusion breaker stage. At this moment, he just wanted to force his divine soul to appear so that he could use the Sky Demon Sutra. Come in. The strange suction instantly enveloped the swordsman's divine soul, and then a strange feeling attacked him. He didn't even have time to scream before he completely lost consciousness. Plop! The white-robed swordsman's corpse fell from the sky and landed in front of Baijishi. This little princess of the Nine-Tailed tribe was completely dumbfounded at this moment. Her mouth was wide open as she looked at the corpse bleeding from all orifices. For a moment, she didn't know whether to escape or thank the great demon who saved her life. At this moment, the demonic aura on Ling Xiao's body suddenly began to surge violently, and an extremely tyrannical wave rippled outwards. Beep. Congratulations to the host for devouring another person's Dao Law, which suits the style of a villain. Villain points increased by 2,000 points. The system's notifications sounded, and Ling Xiao's smile widened. Sword Dao Law. This was the first Dao Law that he had integrated. Even though he had never delved into the Sword Dao, his every move now carried an incomparably fierce aura. This was the terrifying thing about Dao Laws. Communicating with the power of heaven and earth, evolving one's own Dao Law, and thus forming the origin. Similarly, this was the terrifying thing about the Sky Demon True Body. Using the sutra to integrate another person's Dao Law to form one's own origin power. There was no need to comprehend or deduce. All he needed to do was plunder. Ling Xiao's gaze landed on the little girl from the nine-tailed tribe below him. Demonic light flashed in his eyes, and there was a faint, bloodthirsty glint in them. Should he kill this girl as well, while he was at it? As long as he used his brain, he would be able to plunder 2,000 points of providence very quickly, right? Although the nine-tailed tribe was one of the 9 royal tribes of the 10,000 demons' sacred ground, as long as he did it cleanly, he could shift the blame to the Blood Soul Temple. Moreover, when the powerful cultivator from the Blood Soul Temple arrived, several great demons in the eastern wilderness had seen it with their own eyes. Of course, they could prove their innocence. But forget it. Some people were more useful alive than a Dao Law. Who are you? Why are you looking at me like that? It's so scary. Bai Jishi quietly stepped back, and a trace of fear flashed across her eyes. This demonic creature in front of her could even kill a Paon cultivator. How could she, a mere Xianqing demon, be his match? Who am I? A playful look flashed across Ling Xiao's face, and he suddenly descended from the sky. The demonic qi around him gradually dissipated, revealing his original appearance. It's you. Chapter 52. Bai Jishi stared blankly at the handsome young man in black. In the end, she suddenly blushed and cursed in her heart. Bah, bad guys all look like dogs. Nine-tailed clan, talent in the void. It seems that your status in the clan is not low. Ling Xiao's expression was warm, and his tone was filled with gentleness. In the Shengzhou, the sacred sect was high above and controlled the human forces. On the other hand, the demons had always been united. However, humans and demons were different, and the conflict between the two clans had been going on since ancient times. Bai Jishi was young, but her talent was extremely terrifying. If he could make good use of her, she would definitely be of great help in the future. Of course, Ling Xiao had to admit that he was raising her a little. After all, it would be a pity to kill such a good-looking little girl and a kind-hearted little fox. The nine-tailed heavenly fox was the most seductive clan in the entire Shengzhou. Not only did this clan have a natural charm of the fox clan, but they were also proud and had a different taste when subduing them. Although the girl in front of him was still young and had not fully revealed her charm. But in less than 5 years, she would definitely become a calamitous existence in the Shengzhou. My little childhood sweetheart, you can only consider yourself unlucky to have met me. Bad guy, don't come over. Bai Jishi covered her chest with her hands, and her face was full of fear. She had already seen how terrifying Ling Xiao was in Green Maple City. And now, this devil had killed a mighty figure of the delusional realm right in front of her eyes. At this moment, Bai Jishi had completely given up on the idea of escaping. In fact, she had really underestimated herself. With the Dao Law of the Void that she controlled, Ling Xiao would definitely not be able to do anything to her if he did not use his Sky Demon True Body. If the situation had not been critical just now, Ling Xiao would not have dared to release his demonic consciousness. Fortunately, he had obtained the Sword Dao origin, so the risk was worth it. However, since the girl had seen him use his Sky Demon True Body, He could not let her leave so easily. Otherwise, once she returned to the clan and told them about what had happened today, Ling Xiao's fate would become quite miserable. Although the demon race's holy church wasn't easy to deal with, Ling Xiao had heard of many demon race powerhouses submitting to the holy church in the past few years. Therefore, just to be safe, why is that blood hall expert chasing after you? Ling Xiao walked in front of Bai Jishi to prevent her from using her talent to escape. How would I know? Maybe the Blue Wolf clan sent them. Bai Jishi wanted to pretend to be cold and arrogant, but there was no one around her right now. If she annoyed this big devil again, she would suffer a lot. The Ash Wolf clan. Ling Xiao furrowed his brows as a look of contemplation flashed across his eyes. It shouldn't be. Although the Blue Wolf clan was also a royal clan of the demon realm, their power was on par with the Nine-Tailed clan. Even if they sent experts, it wouldn't alarm the Blood Soul Temple. Moreover, the white-clothed swordsman had said something that confused Ling Xiao. So the person Elder Sheng was talking about was you? Who is Elder Sheng? Why is he talking about me? What did he say about me? All of these made Ling Xiao feel an inexplicable sense of crisis. Moreover, when Ling Xiao merged with the divine soul of the Sword Dao expert, he found that his memory was sealed. With Ling Xiao's current means, he couldn't open it at all. What does this mean? It means that this Blood Hall expert didn't just come for assassination. He must have other purposes. It seems that I have to be careful. Ling Xiao sighed in his heart and looked at Bai Jishi again. Open your mind and don't resist me. What do you want to do? Bad guy. Don't even think about it. Bai Jishi suddenly became nervous. Her pair of pink eyes revealed humiliation. I'll give you two choices. Either die or open your mind. I'll only erase your memory and won't do anything to you. Seeing this little girl so resistant, Ling Xiao could only half threaten and half promise. You? Are you sure? At this time, Bai Jishi didn't doubt that Ling Xiao would kill her at all. This guy's ruthlessness was much more terrifying than the Blue Wolf clan. Of course, with my identity, why would I lie to a little girl like you? Ling Xiao's face showed a touch of gentleness, like a bad uncle who used a lollipop to trick a little girl. Then swear on your Dao heart. Bai Jishi was a little girl after all. She actually believed in oaths. If oaths were useful, wouldn't all the men in the world be dead? If I violate this oath, I'll be a demon forever. Ling Xiao coldly snorted, but Bai Jishi stared with her eyes wide open and pondered for a long time. Why did she feel that there was something wrong with this oath? But in the end, under Ling Xiao's slightly threatening gaze, she reluctantly opened her mind. After all, her life was more important. Wasn't it just erasing a memory? She didn't want to remember this big bad guy. Looking at Bai Jishi, who was pouting unhappily with her eyes closed, Ling Xiao's face suddenly revealed a sinister smile. Ancient soul assimilation technique. Buzz. Bai Jishi felt a wisp of soul floating into her sea of consciousness. Then, her entire body sank into boundless darkness. Forget what just happened. Remember, Ling Xiao is the man you love the most in your life. You must dedicate your entire life to him. Your body and soul belong to him. A voice suddenly sounded in the darkness. As if it possessed a magical power, it deeply engraved itself into Bai Jishi's mind. Ling Xiao is the person I love the most. My body and soul belong to him. I will dedicate my everything to him. Bai Jishi looked into the distance with empty eyes as she repeated those words over and over. It was only after a long while that she finally recovered from that strange state. Ling Xiao looked at the Nine-Tailed clan's heavenly daughter in satisfaction. The technique he had used earlier was not a soul assimilation technique. Instead, it was a soul engraving that was even more advanced than a soul assimilation technique. This technique was similar to hypnosis. It could directly engrave an order into the host's subconscious, causing her to develop an instinct. Moreover, it was not easy to be discovered, given the Nine-Tailed Fox King's strength. Once Ling Xiao used the soul assimilation technique on this girl, it was inevitable that she would discover some clues. After all, after the mind was damaged, a person's behavior and emotions would more or less change. However, soul engraving was different. This technique could not completely control the host like a soul assimilation technique. It could even retain the host's original consciousness and thoughts. However, it was more interesting. At the same time, it would not affect the host's cultivation. As a doll, of course, it had to have the most realistic reaction in order to stimulate people. Otherwise, he could just buy an inflatable one. You're that Ling Xiao. Why are you here? The dullness in Bai Jishi's eyes gradually dissipated. Then, when she saw Ling Xiao, she let out a terrified scream. Where am I? At the same time, she looked at the surrounding mountain stream in confusion, especially the 100-mile-long ravine on the ground. She was completely dumbfounded. What did you do to me? Chapter 53. Have you forgotten? Ling Xiao smiled evilly, then pointed at his crotch. Just now, you said you liked me when you saw how big I was. If I hadn't resisted with all my might, I'm afraid you would have forced me to do that. What? Bullshit. Why would I like you? Bai Jishi said, but her eyes suddenly widened. At this moment, she seemed to see Ling Xiao's body glowing. It was a golden radiance, like the sun, moving people's souls. Coupled with Ling Xiao's handsome face, it was simply mesmerizing. How could this be? Why would I like him? This is impossible. Bai Jishi looked at Ling Xiao blankly, as if she was trying hard to recall what had just happened. She only remembered that she brought a group of great demons from the Demon God Mountain to Green Maple City, and then she was slapped in the face by Ling Xiao in public. She could not remember what happened next. Did he plant a soul imprint on me? The more Bai Jishi thought about it, the more ridiculous it was. In the end, under Ling Xiao's teasing gaze, she tore open the void and ran away. But why, just as she was about to leave, she felt a little reluctant. Ling Xiao looked at the sky, at the little girl who was looking back at him with a complicated expression, and the smile on his face grew wider. This spirit engraving is indeed magical. It won't be long before this little girl understands what it means to be lovesick. Beep, congratulations to the host for severing the destiny of the Chosen One. You have received 200 luck points and 2,000 villain points. Destiny of the Chosen One? Sure enough, it's a melodramatic love story. If not for Ling Xiao's appearance, Bai Jishi would have found Yi Fan in the lower realm, and then the two of them would be hunted down by the experts of the Blood Hall. After a life and death experience, they would develop feelings for each other. In the end, Bai Jishi was forced to return to the Shenzhou province, and Yi Fan swore to find her, setting the stage for him to go to the Shenzhou province. Ling Xiao even thought of the plot after that. Yi Fan arrived at the Shenzhou province without anyone to rely on and was despised everywhere. In the end, he offended a certain great power and fell into a situation of certain death. At this moment, Bai Jishi rushed over after hearing the news. She led the demon race experts to kill Yi Fan's enemies and completed the climax of the plot. That was how it worked. What a pity. Yi Fan would most likely not be able to reach the Shenzhou continent after encountering him. Buzz. Just as Ling Xiao was feeling complacent in his heart, Elder Yin's voice suddenly sounded in his sea of consciousness. Young master, just now I ran into a small accident. Elder Yin, how are things on your side? Just now, when Ling Xiao's devil intent was rising, he had taken the initiative to cut off the connection between him and Elder Yin. After all, he was just a servant. It wasn't good for him to know too much. Villains, of course, couldn't be trusted. Everything that entered his eyes was fleeting. Young master, that Yi Fan found an ancient site and seemed to have triggered some kind of restriction. The ancient site has appeared. Elder Yin's voice sounded a little anxious. Yi Fan had already been in there for a day. If young master still didn't come, he might not even be able to drink the soup. Oh, that's fast, as expected of the son of destiny. Ling Xiao smiled. So what if Yi Fan went in? He was just helping him to get rid of the problem in advance. Got it. Wait for me at the entrance of the ancient site. I'll be right there. With more luck, everything would go smoothly. Bei Wang border. The mountain range here was crisscrossed, and ancient trees towered into the sky. At first glance, it was a good place to leave the secret realm. However, it was rare for humans to set foot in such mountains and rivers. It was common knowledge that there must be a powerful demon in the depths of the abyss, who would be willing to deliver food to the demon for no reason. However, at this moment, countless streaks of light flashed in the sky above the mountain range. All kinds of powerful auras came one after another. It was a lively scene. At the end of the mountain range, a beam of golden light shot into the sky. The sound of the great Tao reverberated. Naturally, it was the source of everyone's attention. I didn't expect such a secret realm to appear in the Beiwang border. Yeah, I haven't seen such a terrifying divine light in a long time. God bless the Beiwang border. A group of cultivators gathered in groups of 3 to 5 at the place where the golden light shone. Their eyes were filled with greed. A miracle like this would definitely contain a great treasure. Whoever obtained, it would be able to reach the heavens in a single bound. However, just as everyone was rubbing their palms and preparing to fight, a lazy voice suddenly came from the ancient forest in the distance. I think this secret realm contains great danger. You will most likely die if you go in. Why don't you go back where you came from? Huh? Where did this swindler come from? Who's talking nonsense? All the cultivators were stunned. Pressure surged from their bodies as they turned to look in the direction of the voice. At this moment, a figure in black stood on an ancient tree in the forest with his hands behind his back. He looked lazy and otherworldly. Who else could it be other than Ling Xiao? Brat, was it you who farted just now? In the crowd, a rough-looking man with a long beard who was 9 feet tall sneered. The aura of his soul, instantly surged out from his body. I'll give you 3 breaths. If you don't leave, you can stay here. Ling Xiao jumped down from the ancient tree and walked step by step toward the group of cultivators from the Beiwang border. Ha, what an arrogant brat. Neobai, never kill a nameless person. Brat, who is your teacher? Tell me your name. The rough-looking man was so angry that he laughed. His figure flashed and appeared in front of the crowd. At this time, he was deliberately showing off. Spiritual light shone from his body, which was really intimidating to some extent. So it's the great evil of the Beiwang border, Neobai. I heard that this person is cruel and merciless. His hands are stained with blood. He will easily slaughter an entire family. That brat is going to be unlucky. He deserves to live. Who asked him to be so arrogant and overconfident? The crowd suddenly became restless. They looked at Ling Xiao with sympathy. Ling Xiao, on the other hand, looked at the burly man in front of him with a meaningful gaze. The 3 fingers that were originally extended suddenly folded back into 2. Whoosh! Unexpectedly, after the originally arrogant and haughty Neobai heard the youth's name, he actually instantly transformed into a divine rainbow that shot madly towards the distance. He was in such a hurry that one of his shoes fell on the ground. That Neobai ran away? Everyone looked at each other with a trace of doubt and shock in their eyes. What did that young man say his name was? I think it was Ling Xiao. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. In just a short time, Ling Xiao was the only one left in the bustling ancient forest. Young master's name was so terrifying. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. He raised his head and looked at the entrance to the secret territory in the depths of the ancient forest. Demon descends. In Chun Fan's mind, an ancient voice came again. The space beside Ling Xiao trembled slightly. An old Yin's figure appeared instantly. Young master, Yifan has been in there for a whole day. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how long he has been in there. As long as he doesn't come out. Ling Xiao grinned. Without hesitation, he lifted his foot and walked towards the entrance of the secret realm. He had a feeling that the things in the secret territory were closely related to his demon body. Chapter 54. Elder Yin, guard the entrance of the mystery realm. There must be some restrictive spells here. I'm afraid you won't be able to get in. Ling Xiao reached out his hand and touched the golden light at the entrance of the mystery realm. As expected, he could feel a terrifying wave of energy rippling out. As expected of a mystery realm that was created for the Chosen One. The restrictive spells had to be in the awakened god realm. This way, not only could he test Yifan and train his character, but he could also reduce the danger to the minimum. After all, no matter how powerful the Chosen One was, there was a limit to killing enemies in the mystery realm. Otherwise, if the gap was too big, the main plot would be destroyed. However, how could such a restrictive spell stop Ling Xiao? Suddenly, a ray of black light shone in his hand. A small diamond appeared in his hand. It was the boundary-breaking talisman. This talisman could break the space barrier easily. A restrictive spell was nothing to it. Of course, Ling Xiao had another reason for leaving Eldarine outside. If this mystery realm really contained a treasure related to his demonic body, it would be extremely terrifying. Yifan was the chosen one. Getting the treasure might just be a test for him. However, Ling Xiao had to be careful. If the divine soul of an ancient almighty appeared in this mystery realm, he would have to use his demonic body to fight against it. The more people he saw, the more troublesome it would be. Most villains died because of their carelessness. Ling Xiao constantly reminded himself that he had to be more cautious when doing things. Yes, Oldie nodded and stood quietly at the entrance, watching Ling Xiao's figure disappear into the distance. Boom! However, to Ling Xiao's surprise, when he stepped into the mystery realm, what he saw was not the paradise that he had imagined. Instead, it was a desolate demon abyss. There were bones all over the ground. Death chi spread out. A terrifying demonic intent rose from the bottom of the abyss. Where the great demon fell, Ling Xiao frowned. He could not help but feel curious. Could it be that Yifan was also a demonic cultivator? Just like his path, it was winding and desolate. Just like his life, it was lonely and persistent. Or perhaps this was the devil. Ling Xiao shook his head and smiled. In the past, hadn't the great demon Su Ming also found a trace of the devil and awakened his memories, discovering the falsehood of fate layer by layer? However, regardless of whether Yifan was a devil or an immortal, he would definitely die today. It's about time. Yifan should have arrived by now. Ling Xiao sneered as killing intent flashed in his eyes. Today, he had not come just for the good fortune in the ruins. The 8 desolation glazed pagoda on Yifan was also somewhat attractive to him, to be able to trap 9 immortal ascension fiendish demons. If he could subdue the 9 devils, it would be a great help to Ling Xiao. Even if he couldn't subdue it, there was no harm in swallowing it. Swoosh! A burst of wind-breaking sound was heard, and Ling Xiao's figure instantly disappeared from where he stood, at the bottom of Devil Abyss. The longsword in Yifan's hand slashed out furiously, directly chopping a devil that was emitting black gas all over into 2. Behind him, a bloody path extended all the way to the top of the Fiend Abyss. Clearly, along the way, Yifan also suffered many hardships. Arrived! Finally, Yifan's footsteps suddenly stopped on the spot. Lifting his head, he looked towards a majestic ancient palace hidden in the darkness in the depths of the Fiend Abyss. More than half of the ancient palace had already collapsed. The broken walls were scattered all over the ground, emitting a desolate feeling. Furthermore, a sinister aura that made people fear was currently spreading out from the depths of the Great Hall. The good fortune should be inside. A hint of hesitation flashed across Yifan's face. Logically speaking, he wanted to wait until his cultivation stepped into the Soul Sea realm before coming to explore this ancient ruins. But Ling Xiao's appearance completely disrupted his plans. Although he obtained quite a number of good fortunes along the way, and his cultivation already stepped into the middle stage, awakening God realm. But facing such an ancient ruin that contained great danger, he still appeared somewhat hesitant. Roar! Right at this time, a horrifying roar suddenly came from the surroundings of the Great Hall. Immediately after, a several hundred feet tall, horrifying fiend walked out from the darkness. That pair of eyes filled with bloodlust stared fixedly at Yifan, making the latter give rise to a chill from his feet to his head. Fiend ape! Buzz! Miyang's figure instantly appeared beside Yifan. Ever since that day when he failed to kill Ling Xiao, Yi Fan did not seal him in the soul-suppressing pagoda anymore. Instead, he let him follow behind him. After all, this ancient ruin was strange. With such a great fiend accompanying him, it would more or less make him feel more at ease. Roar. It was just that following the appearance of the fiend ape, waves of roars came from the darkness around the great hall once more. Then, one after another, horrifying fiends completely revealed their figures. Damn it! Why did so many fiends suddenly come? Yi Fan gritted his teeth and turned his head to glance at the fiend ape. Can you clean them up? I can, but these fiends have already been corroded by death chi. I'm afraid that it's not too easy to kill them. You be more careful. A trace of scarlet light flashed across Myong's eyes, but Yi Fan immediately furrowed his brows. This bastard clearly did not want to put in the effort to do the work. Made sense. It wished for nothing more than for him to die here. That way, nobody could seal him anymore. Myong, if I die and this ancient pagoda falls here, it will probably not be easy for you to want to see the light of day again. As long as you help me obtain the good fortune in this ruin this time, I'll return your freedom. Of course, this sort of situation at hand, Yi Fan did not dare to completely fall out with this fiend ape either. He could only give it a slap and give it a date, letting it assist him wholeheartedly for the time being. Didn't stinky monkeys love to eat dates? Yes. Myong nodded his head. No expression could be seen on his face. His figure flashed, instantly pouncing over towards that group of fiends. But Yi Fan did not dare to hesitate anymore either. Gritting his teeth fiercely, he followed closely behind Myong, charging in the direction of that ancient palace's entrance. At the same time, in the skies above Green Maple City, a surge of demonic chi suddenly spread over. When all the Soul Sea realm experts in the city saw that white-clothed demoness who left and returned, each and every one of their intestines nearly turned green. Damn it! Why did this great demon come back again? Originally, they thought that this demoness caught up to Ling Xiao. Regardless of who lived or died between the two, they would not return to Green Maple City anymore. After all, you a profound, clear great demon, are there any thrills in grinding against a few Soul Sea and awakening god ants? Bai Jishi stood in midair. Her gaze swept across the entire city, but did not sense Ling Xiao's aura. Her eyes were faintly somewhat disappointed. Ever since she parted ways with Ling Xiao and returned to the Demon God Mountain, that group of Eastern Wilderness great demons told her about the encounter previously. Bai Jishi seemed to have thought of some things again. She indeed remembered that there was a white-clothed swordsman chasing after her. But at the juncture of life and death, she also remembered that there was a stalwart figure who blocked all of the attacks for her. That figure's entire body emitted golden light. She could not see his face clearly. Only that hint of a lazy smile at the corners of his mouth was as clear as a carving knife. This scene was like a demonic obsession, imprinting deeply at the bottom of Bai Jishi's heart. Could it be you? Ling Xiao? But why don't I remember? That's right, that girl. Bai Jishi frowned slightly. Suddenly, she remembered the green-clothed girl when she first arrived at Green Maple City. Her divine sense instantly surged out and quickly discovered Yi Qingchan's aura. This aura, it was clearly noon, but Green Maple City was strangely quiet. Yi Qingchan stood in the Yi family's main hall. Her face suddenly turned pale. Qingchan, what's wrong? Is Lord Ling Xiao back? No, uncle. I feel that the profound, clear great demon is back. Yi Qingchan held a spirit talisman in her hand. She was hesitant for a moment. If she left now, she was afraid that the Yi family would be annihilated. But if she did not leave, once she fell into the hands of that demoness, what? What should we do? Yi Lufeng sat paralyzed on the ground. His face was pale. As for the remaining Yi family members, they looked at Yi Qingchan with despair. There was a hint of hatred in the depths of their eyes. Buzz. At this moment, the space above the main hall suddenly fluctuated. Bai Jishi's figure appeared out of thin air. She stood quietly in front of the Yi family members. Aya, oh my God, Your Majesty, please spare our lives. We are really not familiar with Ling Xiao. Your Majesty, I don't want to die. Suddenly, the entire Yi residence was filled with wails. Some even fainted from fear. Bai Jishi frowned slightly. She did not care about the ugliness of the crowd. She directly looked at Yi Qingshan. Has Lord Ling Xiao returned? No, never. Yi Qingshan was also very scared. After all, a profound, clear, great demon was right in front of her. The feeling of her life and death being controlled by someone was really uncomfortable. Wait, what did she call the young master? Lord Ling Xiao. Did she hear it wrong? Or, do you know where he went? Bai Jishi's face was slightly red, especially when she saw the surprise on Yi Qingshan's face. Her eyes flashed with a trace of embarrassment. No, I don't know. When he comes back, tell him that I'm going back to Xingzhou. If he has time in the future, he can come to the 1,000 Demon Sacred Ground to find me. With that, Bai Jishi immediately tore open the space and disappeared in front of the Yi family. The wails stopped abruptly. Everyone from the Yi clan stared dumbfoundedly at the disappearing figure of the young girl. Their faces carried a trace of astonishment. Even Yi Qingshan was a little confused at this time. Why did the originally aggressive, profound, clear, great demon suddenly change her temperament after not seeing her for a day? And why did she invite the young master to find her? Could it be? Yi Qingshan's eyes flashed with a trace of understanding, but she could not help but feel a little jealous. Gone? Gone. The young master is mighty. Even this profound, clear, great demon was conquered. Quick, help me up. I want to kowtow to the young master and burn incense. On the other side, Ling Xiao followed the path that Yi Fan walked all the way to the bottom of the abyss. At this time, he also found that there were many demon corpses scattered on the side of the road. A good person. This Yi Fan is really a good person. He knew that I was coming and actually cleared a path for me in advance. Along the way, Ling Xiao also saw some ancient ruins standing in the abyss. However, since Yi Fan did not go in, it proved that there was no good fortune in it. The intuition of the Son of Destiny was the most ethereal and accurate thing in the world. Of course, Ling Xiao trusted him very much. It was not until his figure appeared in front of the ancient palace that the expression on his face gradually became serious. In the darkness, the pitch-black palace was like a giant beast with a big mouth. The restriction at the entrance had been broken. Obviously, Yi Fan should have gone in. Demon, come! In the sea of consciousness, an ancient call sounded again. At this time, Ling Xiao could not wait. What kind of shocking secret was hidden in this palace? Little Yi Fan, I'm coming. Chapter 55. In the depths of the ancient hall, Yi Fan stared at the terrifying figure in front of him who was wearing divine armor and holding a golden spear. His eyes were filled with despair. In the hall further away, a majestic figure sat upright. He wore a golden crown and a holy robe. He held a long, rusty saber in his hand. The figure had his eyes closed, and there was no sign of life on his body. However, he gave off an endless pressure just by sitting there. It was obvious that this person was most likely the owner of this ruin. The golden armored puppet in front of him was probably the guardian of his mausoleum. Only then did Yi Fan understand why this hall was filled with a gloomy aura and death aura. It turned out that this was the place where an ancient almighty had passed away. The creation must be in the corpse of that almighty, and this puppet was probably the final test. With that thought, Yi Fan's body emitted a dazzling spiritual light. A mid-stage awakening god aura rippled out, and the spiritual sword in his hand released a terrifying sharpness. Clang! However, the puppet was an inanimate object and could not feel pain at all. Even its strength seemed to be endless. Yi Fan fought fiercely with it for a long time, but in the end, he gradually fell into a disadvantage. Demonic ape. Attack! Yi Fan's anxious shout resounded in the hall. Demonic ape Myung suddenly appeared beside Yi Fan. Demonic light surged in his hand, and he directly pressed his palm on a black spirit crystal above the puppet's head. Crack! Along with a shattering sound, the puppet fighter, which had been terrifying, suddenly stopped moving. However, at this moment, a layer of strange fluctuations swept out and instantly enveloped Yifan. Damn it, he still has some tricks up his sleeve. Yifan's heart trembled. Before he could defend himself, the scene in front of him suddenly began to change. Is this an illusion? All of a sudden, many ferocious demons with ferocious faces appeared in the hall. However, Yifan did not move at all and directly sat down with his legs crossed. Since it was an illusion, everything was illusory as long as he stabilized his mind. As the son of destiny, Yifan's temperament was naturally impeccable. This test was not much of a threat to him at all. Time passed slowly. When Yifan opened his eyes again, there was a faint smile at the corner of his lips. As for illusions and whatnot, the ones he killed were all small fries. For the chosen one, this was just a dungeon to accumulate experience and get rid of their inner demons. No, it should be forging a flawless Tao heart. However, right at the moment when Yifan stood up and was about to walk toward the corpse of the owner of the remnants, he clearly saw a familiar black-clothed figure in the center of the hall, looking at him with a smile that was not a smile. Ling Xiao. Yifan's face instantly turned hideous. In the blink of an eye, a hint of mockery flashed in his eyes. Is it still an illusion? This method is quite clever. Yifan sneered and walked toward Ling Xiao. Although I'm not your opponent now, as long as I get the inheritance of this ancient almighty, I'll be able to kill you with a wave of my hand. Really? Ling Xiao's lips curled into a smile. Indeed, the so-called ruins were nothing more than a leveling up dungeon for the chosen one. Although the process seemed dangerous, in the end, all the good fortune would naturally fall into his hands. You can talk. Yifan was stunned. Although there were many terrifying demonic creatures in the illusions that he experienced earlier, without exception, they were all formed by the inner demons in his mind. There was no consciousness, no thought, no expression. However, Ling Xiao in front of him clearly had a hint of mockery on his face. You're Ling Xiao. Yifan felt goosebumps all over his body. How is that possible? Why is this be asterisk starred here? Mr. Yi, you've worked hard. Ling Xiao grinned and turned to look at the majestic figure sitting on the golden chair in the hall. There was a flash of seriousness in his eyes. Although the remnants were filled with terrifying demonic aura, there was no demonic aura on the ancient corpse at all. In fact, there was a hint of divine aura. Could it be that the good fortune that summoned him was on the corpse? At that moment, Yifan looked around Ling Xiao, but did not sense any aura of an expert. You came here alone? When the fiend ape tried to assassinate Ling Xiao, it was stopped by the Almighty behind him. Although Yifan did not know how he managed to find this remnant, if he had really come here alone, then today's ruins would be his burial ground. What else? Ling Xiao's lips curled into a playful smile. How could he not know what Yifan was thinking? Ling Xiao, how did you find this place? Yifan's face relaxed again, and there was even a hint of mockery in his eyes. Of course, I followed you here. Mr. Yi, how should I thank you? How about sending you to your death? Ling Xiao smiled and walked to the front of the ancient corpse. His whole body quietly lit up with a trace of spiritual light. Even if an ancient almighty left behind his inheritance, it would not be easily obtained by others. Moreover, the remnants were obviously prepared by Axiom Daddy for Yifan. If he snatched it by force, there would definitely be changes. Sending me to my death? Ling Xiao, I'm afraid you haven't seen how powerful my demonic servant is. Yifan sneered and waved his hand gently. The fiend Ape Miyang's figure instantly appeared beside him. My demonic servant can kill a mere Soul Sea expert with a wave of his hand. Ling Xiao, you can only blame yourself for being too greedy. How dare you covet my creation? Soul Sea? Kill it with a wave of your hand. Mr. Yi, why don't you think about how I followed you here? Ling Xiao did not even look at Yifan. His eyes were still on the ancient corpse. However, after looking at it for a long time, he did not see anything different about the ancient corpse. Could it be that the Son of Destiny had triggered an opportunity? What do you mean? Bring him to me, Ling Xiao said indifferently. Yi Fan didn't even have time to react before he was grabbed by the neck by a huge force. After that, he was dragged in front of Ling Xiao like a dead dog. Demonic ape, you, you dare to kill your master? Yi Fan's eyes widened as he looked at the demonic shadow behind him in disbelief. Just as he was about to activate the 8 Desolation Glazed Pagoda, he heard Ling Xiao say calmly, I guarantee that you will die before him. You. Yi Fan's face instantly turned pale as beads of cold sweat dripped down his forehead. He never dreamed that Ling Xiao would be able to control the demon in his pagoda. How was that possible? Even with the 8 Desolation Glazed Pagoda's terrifying power, it could only suppress it and not make it submit. How did Ling Xiao do it? Beep. The Son of Destiny's mind is severely injured. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 300 luck points and 3,000 destiny points. Chapter 56. Young Master Yi, the creation in this relic should be on this ancient corpse. Why don't you give it a try? Ling Xiao smiled and gestured for the devil ape to bring Yi Fan to him. Then, he waved his hand and sealed Yi Fan's spiritual power. As the Son of Destiny, Yi Fan would definitely have something that could save his life. Ling Xiao did not want him to escape again. Otherwise, if Yi Fan was given a few more years, he might really be able to stir up some trouble. Ling Xiao didn't want to become someone else's stepping stone if he wasn't careful. Ling Xiao, you will regret this. Yi Fan's eyes were filled with grievance. However, he did not have much power to fight back in front of someone with the Soul Sea realm. However, although the devil ape's cultivation was strong, it was nothing to worry about. After all, with the restriction of the 8 Desolation Glazed Pagoda, he did not dare to kill Yi Fan. As long as he thought of a way to get rid of Ling Xiao, the crisis before him would be easily resolved. Yi Fan's eyes glanced at the ancient corpse without anyone noticing. Previously, he had already passed many tests. Logically speaking, it should be time for him to reap the rewards. As long as he could obtain the inheritance of the ancient corpse, he would have a chance of defeating Ling Xiao. It was laughable that this big idiot wanted him to try to awaken this ancient mighty. A sinister look flashed across Yi Fan's eyes, but he pretended to resist. Ling Xiao, don't think that I will help you awaken this senior. Your acting skills are worthy of an Oscar Lifetime Achievement Award. Ling Xiao smiled faintly and did not care about Yi Fan's thoughts at all. No matter what kind of secret this ancient mighty was hiding, it was not worth mentioning to him. Normally, a fallen person would at most leave behind a wisp of remnant soul. Although it would still have some power when it was alive, it was not a threat to Ling Xiao. Among all the methods that he had, the Sky Demon Real Body was naturally his strongest trump card. However, the ancient Pangu Stone in his mind was also a treasure of heaven and earth. It was the nemesis of all divine souls. A mere remnant soul was, at most, nourishment to him. Ling Xiao, on the other hand, wished that this ancient corpse had a higher realm when it was alive. That way, it would be able to nourish his soul palace. Ling Xiao, don't be complacent. You won't have a good ending. You will die a horrible death. Yi Fan was taken over by Ling Xiao from the devil ape's hands. He was holding Yi Fan's neck like a dead dog. Such an action made him feel extremely humiliated. Young Master Yi, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. A righteous person like me will definitely live longer than a devil like you. Ling Xiao grinned and casually tossed Yi Fan toward the ancient corpse. According to his analysis, the Child of Destiny had to go through a series of seemingly dangerous, but actually harmless tests before finally arriving at the place where the powerhouse had passed away. The Guardians of the Mausoleum and the flow of illusions were unavoidable challenges. But at the same time, it was also the last resort left behind by the Almighty. Now that he had settled all of this, it was time for the most important moment. The remnant soul had awakened, and the legacy of creation had been passed down. Who was it that disturbed my slumber? Note that he had to use the word I here. As for why, of course, it was to highlight the power of the ancient Almighty. Otherwise, saying I would be too lacking in grandeur. In ancient times, everyone was very particular about what they said. Clang! Yi Fan was in an extremely humiliating position as he crashed into the arms of the almighty being. Then, the entire hall suddenly darkened for a moment. A vast and mighty primordial aura quietly spread out. Between heaven and earth, streams of spirit chi surged toward the ancient corpse at a speed visible to the naked eye. The sudden explosion of the great Tao Sanskrit accompanied by the surging sky demon chi did indeed look a little frightening. At this moment, the ancient corpse's eyes suddenly opened. It seemed to contain endless majesty and a faint trace of lightning. That's right, that's the gaze. Ling Zhao's mind suddenly became extremely excited. As expected, this ancient almighty had to be awakened by the child of destiny. Otherwise, if someone else were to throw it over, they would probably be immediately struck to death by the inexplicable lightning. Who was it that disturbed my slumber? A deep and ancient voice rumbled. At this moment, the entire ancient hall seemed to tremble for a moment. A familiar smell. Yi Fan's face was a little pale. Especially at this moment, he seemed to hear a shrill and terrifying demonic chant in his ears. Die! A terrifying demonic aura was emitted from the ancient corpse. However, immediately after, a wisp of golden light appeared from his eyes and suppressed the demonic aura. It's that saber. Ling Zhao's eyes suddenly emitted a wisp of spiritual light. At this moment, he could clearly feel that the demonic aura in the hall was all emitted from the demonic saber, and that ancient almighty who was awakening was desperately suppressing the demonic aura that was sweeping through heaven and earth. Demonic descent. The strange call once again resounded in Ling Zhao's sea of consciousness. Ling Zhao's figure flashed and instantly appeared in front of the ancient corpse. He kicked Yi Fan to the side and reached out to grab the demonic saber. A terrifying aura suddenly enveloped the area. At this moment, the ancient corpse's eyes were also fixed on Ling Zhao. It was like a god overlooking the common people, making people want to kneel down and worship it. Aunt, you're courting death. Boom! Ling Zhao instantly felt as if he was severely injured. His body trembled violently for a moment, but his hand did not let go of the demonic saber. Ha ha ha, Ling Zhao, you asked for it. Yi Fan struggled to stand up from the ground. From a moment he touched the ancient corpse, he knew the origin of the saber. According to the ancient almighty's memory, the saber was an item of the ancient demon god. Ordinary people would be eroded by the demonic aura just by looking at it, let alone touching it, and become a walking corpse. And that ancient almighty was willing to die and stay here to suppress the demonic saber with his lifetime's cultivation. In other words, the creation in the ruins was not the demonic saber, but the ancient almighty's cultivation and orthodoxy when he was alive. It was laughable that Ling Zhao was so reckless to think that the saber was the creation. Now, even without Yi Fan's scheme, he would not be able to escape from the ancient almighty's thunderous attack. Boom! Thunderclouds suddenly gathered in the ancient palace, and purplish-green thunderbolts meandered like angry dragons. Ignorant scoundrel, do you think this demonic creature is something you can covet? I've suppressed it for 3,000 years, and now that it's awakened, it's time to destroy it completely. Aunt, die! The ancient corpse's voice was mighty, and its eyes were filled with lightning. He glared at Ling Zhao with an extremely furious expression. Above his head, lightning dragons intertwined with each other before finally forming a huge sun that condensed out of thin air. The terrifying power contained in it seemed to be able to refine all the evil in the world. Yi Fan hid at the side of the palace. Not only did he not take the opportunity to escape, but he also had a hint of excitement on his face. Now that Ling Zhao was dead, he could take revenge, and the inheritance would be his. How comfortable! Chapter 57. Ling Zhao narrowed his eyes. The strength of this ancient corpse seemed to have exceeded his expectations. The lightning sun above his head, which contained the true meaning of the great Tao, made him feel a trace of fear for no reason. However, the more it was so, the more excited Ling Xiao felt. It was obvious that the power of this demonic saber must be extremely terrifying to be able to make such a mighty figure who had comprehended the lightning Tao law to guard this place. Of course, from the moment this demonic saber summoned him, Ling Xiao knew that its origin was more or less related to the Sky Demon's true body. What kind of figure was the Sky Demon? He had the ability to suppress the four gods in the primordial era. With his own strength, he had broken through the void and almost broken the restraints of the heavenly Tao. All demonic beings that could be related to him were definitely the most vicious and evil beings in the world. Demon descends. In his sea of consciousness, that ancient voice sounded again. Ling Xiao was stunned. He seemed to have guessed something. Could it be that this saber's artifact soul is summoning me? Are you the one summoning me? Ling Xiao calmed his mind and tried to communicate with that demonic intent. Demon descends. Isn't it a pity to bury such a good, peerless weapon here? As long as you are willing to follow me, I will let your name shake the world in the future. A monstrous demonic aura gushed out at this moment. That demonic saber seemed to understand Ling Xiao's words. The originally rusty saber gradually emitted a dark and deep light. Then, the rust fell off, and endless demonic light soared into the sky. Damn it! Ant, let go! When this saber appears, the 5 regions will be plunged into misery and suffering. The lightning intent in the ancient mighty figure's eyes became brighter. Even his voice contained the pressure of the great Tao. It was obvious that he was really angry. This Ling Xiao is really courting death. How dare he anger a supreme being? Yi Fan's smile grew wider. He looked coldly at the lightning sun that was gradually solidifying above the ancient palace, as well as the demonic ape that was standing below the palace. If his cultivation had not been sealed by Ling Xiao, he would have used the 8 desolation glazed pagoda to seal the demonic creature. So what if the people are in a terrible situation? Ling Xiao grinned, and a faint light flashed in his eyes, which was exactly the same as the one on the demonic blade. Bastard, I didn't expect you to have such a demonic heart. You deserve to die. The ancient corpse raised both of its hands into the air and swung them down towards Ling Xiao. Buzz! Heaven and earth instantly shattered. As for the thunder sun, it directly fell towards Ling Xiao with a force that could crush the void. A terrifying pressure spread out in all directions. The full power attack of a supreme being, even if it was performed by a remnant soul, was not something that a Xianqing cultivator could resist. In fact, if it weren't for Ling Xiao's taboo demon body, just this pressure alone would be enough to crush him to pieces. Even so, Ling Xiao still felt the qi and blood in his body roiling, and his bones faintly emitted a terrifying sound of friction. However, at that moment, Ling Xiao and the demonic blade's consciousness were at the crucial stage of fusing. He could not dodge this attack at all. That Ling Xiao has turned into a demon so quickly. He doesn't even care about his life anymore. Yi Fan laughed unscrupulously as he watched the thunder sun completely engulf Ling Xiao's figure. You brought this upon yourself. Do you really think that you have an undying demonic body? Senior. Yi Fan impatiently ran to the ancient corpse with a pained expression on his face. Senior, I didn't expect you to die because of this demonic creature. Junior, did you awaken my remnant soul? The ancient corpse lowered its head and looked at Yi Fan. The lightning in its eyes retreated, and there was a rare gentleness in its eyes. Yes, Senior, I am Yi Fan. I am willing to inherit your will and eliminate the demons in the world. Yi Fan's tone was righteous, and his back was straight. He looked like a righteous person. Very good. The 5 regions need a young man like you. The ancient corpse's voice was filled with gratification. However, just as Yi Fan was about to kneel down with a sincere expression, a ray of dim light suddenly flickered in the depths of the lightning that filled the sky. Just 2 or 3 sentences, and you've already lost your sense of direction? You are a supreme being. Aren't you too gullible? Boom! In the depths of the lightning, That ray of dim light suddenly shone brightly. Then a tall figure in black walked out. You! How is this possible? The ancient corpse and Yi Fan were stunned at the same time. They looked at Ling Xiao in disbelief. How is this possible? How can an ant who has not even reached the Pong state survive an all-out attack from a supreme being? Moreover, what is with the demonic saber in his hand? Where's the seal on it? Where's the layer of rust? You? Who are you? Who am I? Senior, I am your true inheritor. Ling Xiao grinned. Demonic intent surged in his eyes, and the demonic saber in his hand buzzed. Demon? So you are a demon. You? Shut up. Ling Xiao took a step forward and raised the demonic saber in his hand. Suddenly, the demonic light exploded and slashed the ancient corpse's head with an unparalleled force. Since he had obtained the opportunity, this farce should be over. At this moment, he was in a sorry state. Even the demonic dragon sacred armor hidden under his skin had been completely shattered. However, this did not affect Ling Xiao's mood. The supreme demonic saber was the primordial sky demon saber. After 3,000 years, it finally reappeared in the world. Such a peerless weapon did not have any grade to speak of. This was because the so-called grade was only used to differentiate acquired spiritual treasures. As for this supreme demon blade, it was born together with the heavenly demon when it was born. The power contained in it could split the sky, split the earth, and kill immortals. No, the ancient corpse's eyes were filled with despair. The lightning sun just now was his last resort. However, he did not expect that this ant would be able to block it. Was this heaven's will? Pucci. The moment the demonic saber fell, the ancient corpse's body was split into two halves. A remnant soul instantly rushed out of the hall. A smile immediately appeared on Ling Xiao's face. The power of the spirit and the lightning Dao law. Compared to the demonic saber, this opportunity was not to be missed. Moreover, although the demonic saber was good, it could not be used casually. Otherwise, once the sacred venerables in the Shengzhou recognized it, Ling Xiao's fate could be imagined. The power of the Dao law was the opportunity for the sky demon's true body to enter the third transformation. 9 Dao laws. Ling Xiao also did not expect that he actually obtained 2 of them so quickly. Merging 2 Dao laws at the Soul Sea realm was definitely an unprecedented feat in the entire Shengzhou. Ling Xiao could not wait to go back and see the faces of his enemies. Come back. Ling Xiao snorted coldly. A demonic aura instantly surged out of his body and turned into a palm print out of thin air, holding the sovereign remnant soul in his hand. Let me go. Junior, you'll regret it. That demonic saber contains the will of the sky demon. You are just a Xianqing cultivator and cannot control it. In the end, you will only become the saber's slave. Senior, I'm afraid you think too much. Ling Xiao laughed mockingly. In the space behind him, a demonic silhouette gradually manifested in the world. Chapter 58. This aura, you are. In front of Ling Xiao, the fear on the primordial prime's face instantly froze. He looked at the terrifying demonic figure that had manifested in the world. Apart from despair, there was also a deep sense of fear in his eyes. Sky Demon, you are the Sky Demon. You know too much. Ling Xiao smiled eerily. The demonic shadow behind him suddenly opened its mouth and swallowed the primordial prime's remnant soul. Crunch, crunch. Yi Fan was already paralyzed on the ground in fear. All he could hear was the sound of the primordial prime being swallowed by Ling Xiao. With his experience, he naturally didn't know that the Sky Demon true body was a forbidden physique. However, the demonic intent on Ling Xiao's body was too terrifying. With his awakening spirit cultivation, he didn't even have the courage to raise his head in front of the former. Yi Fan finally understood why the demonic ape would voluntarily submit to Ling Xiao. A demonic creature that could swallow even a primordial prime must be the great demon that people talked about. You can't kill me. Yi Fan's face was pale. He curled up in a corner of the ancient palace, trembling nonstop. He hated it. If he had known that Ling Xiao was so strong, he would have taken the opportunity to escape when he fought with the primordial prime. Humans, as expected, all die because of greed. Beep. The Chosen One's Tao heart has been shattered. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 200 luck points and 2,000 villain points. Additional rewards can be obtained for killing the Chosen One. Hearing the system notification in his mind, Ling Xiao's lips curled into a smile. Why can't I kill you? Ling Xiao grinned, a mocking expression on his face. The power of the primordial prime's remnant soul and the law of lightning had been completely absorbed by the sky demon scripture. Although Ling Xiao was only in the middle stage of the mystic clear stage, his soul palace was far more powerful than an immortal ascension cultivator. Of course, in the eyes of the four barren lands, an immortal ascension cultivator was the strongest in the world. However, in the Shangzhou, immortal ascension was just a general term. Above Paoang was immortal ascension. This was because those who had broken through the realm barrier and stepped into the Shangzhou continent had become immortals in the eyes of the world. As for the realm after Paoang, the people of the four barren lands had no way of knowing. In truth, there was no such thing as ascending to immortality in the Shangzhou continent. Moreover, the division of realms was not as fancy as the four desolates. After Paoang, it was indeed the threshold of cultivation. The following realms were the Divine General, Divine Overlord, Divine Monarch, Celestial Arch, Yuan Venerate, Sage, and finally the Heaven and Earth Supreme. Every realm was divided into 9 ranks, and the 9 ranks were the strongest. For example, Elder Een was a 9th grade Divine General. Only after stepping into Paoang and becoming a Divine General could one open up the Soul Palace and use the palace to nourish the soul and build the palace with the soul. But Ling Xiao borrowed the ancient divine object, Pangu Stone, and successfully opened up a soul palace that belonged to him at the Soul Sea realm. Moreover, its toughness was rarely seen in the world. Compared to the true form of the Sky Demon, this trump card was equally terrifying. The Shangzhou continent was now filled with monstrous geniuses and geniuses. However, those who truly stepped into Paoang at the age of 17 or 18 were few and far between. Most of the geniuses were at the Soul Sea realm and Xianqing realm. Of course, Ling Xiao's true combat strength was not something a Paoang cultivator could contend with. However, once he returned to the Shangzhou continent, he would not be able to use as many trump cards easily. Therefore, it was necessary to seize the opportunity to improve his strength on the surface. My mother came from the Shangzhou continent. I have a keepsake that she left for me. If you kill me, my mother will definitely know. When she dies, Yi Fan calmed down again, although he still did not know who his mother was. However, to be able to leave behind such a heaven-defying treasure like the 8 Desolation Glazed Pagoda, it was obvious that his mother's identity was extremely noble. However, Ling Xiao did not care about Yi Fan's threat at all. He raised his hand, and the blade fell. Blood splattered on the ground. Yi Fan dead. A son of destiny without any providence was of no use to Ling Xiao. As for his mother from the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, Ling Xiao had indeed thought that given the Nine-Tailed Fox clan's foundation, they should not be in control of such a demon-suppressing ancient treasure like the 8 Desolation Glazed Pagoda. The Nine-Tailed Fox clan's first princess must have had some other fortuitous encounters. However, given Yi Fan's character, if he did not die today, there would definitely be a 30-year drama in the future. Therefore, it was better to just kill him and end it all. The Nine-Tailed Fox clan was the royal clan of the Thousand Demon Sacred Land, but the Ling family was also one of the top ancient clans in the Shangzhou continent. Moreover, Ling Xiao was also the young master of the Thousand Demon Sect. Even if the Nine-Tailed Fox clan's first princess found out that he had killed Yi Fan, it would at most be a grudge between them. The Nine-Tailed Fox clan would definitely not go against him for a bastard. After figuring this out, Ling Xiao reached out and threw Yi Fan's corpse into the demonic shadow's mouth. At the same time, the system notification sounded again. Beep. Congratulations to the host for successfully killing the Son of Destiny. You have obtained an additional reward, 9-layer pill C. Do you want to fuse it immediately? 9-layer pills C. Ling Xiao was taken aback. Soon after, a look of ecstasy flashed across his eyes. The 9-layer pill C was much more terrifying than the yin-yang pill C. It was left behind by an ancient saint and was extremely rare. Not yet. Ling Xiao already knew how to deal with his younger brother when he returned to the clan. Buzz. Suddenly, a terrifying buzzing sound could be heard from the ancient palace. Then, a pitch-black ancient pagoda stood in front of Ling Xiao. A trace of fear flashed across the demonic ape Miyang's eyes. He was clearly instinctively afraid of the ancient treasure that had suppressed him for countless years. Is this the 8 desolate, glazed demon subduing pagoda? A glint flashed across Ling Xiao's eyes. He was indeed very interested in this treasure. In particular, he already knew from Mi Yong that there were 8 demonic creatures that were even more powerful than him suppressed inside. As long as Ling Xiao refined this treasure, coupled with the terrifying demonic might of the sky demon true body, the 9 demons would definitely submit to him. With that thought, Ling Xiao's mind moved, and he put the ancient pagoda into his soul palace. Boom! Monstrous demonic aura instantly spread out from Ling Xiao's sea of consciousness. However, as the palace formed by the Pangu stone lit up with bursts of light, the ancient pagoda's original power was instantly suppressed. After all, the Pangu stone was left behind by the great god Pangu when he created the world. It had been baptized by the primordial qi. How could a mere divine treasure dare to be fierce in front of it? Soon, the remaining trace of consciousness in the pagoda was completely wiped out. Ling Xiao quickly separated a strand of consciousness and completely took control of it. The 8 desolate glazed pagoda, which was originally filled with demonic aura, instantly became docile and quietly floated above the soul palace. Ling Xiao hesitated for a moment before his figure suddenly disappeared from the spot. He wanted to see the origins of the 9 demons sealed in the pagoda. Chapter 59. On the first floor of the 8 desolation glazed demon sealing pagoda, Ling Xiao stood in the darkness with his hands clasped behind his back. In the distance, the devil ape quietly knelt in front of him. So it's been sealed. No wonder. Ling Xiao had been wondering how Yi Fan, a mere awakened divinity ant, was able to control this divine lord demon. As expected, it was a familiar pattern. Ling Xiao stretched out his hand and snapped his fingers. Above his head, a lightning sun appeared out of thin air, illuminating the entire ancient pagoda as bright as day. Mi Yong tilted his head, clearly not used to such intense light. But when he looked at Ling Xiao again, there was a deep respect in the depths of his eyes. The Tao law of lightning, the power of the great Tao. Compared to ordinary lightning energy, the Tao laws contain the origin of all things. He had no doubt that, even without the 8 desolation glazed pagoda suppression, he was no match for Ling Xiao. The Tao law of lightning alone was enough to destroy his physical body. Mi Yong, are you willing to submit to me? Ling Xiao stood in front of the devil ape, his figure appearing extremely small. Mi Yong instantly transformed into his human form and knelt before Ling Xiao. Master, we demons have always been your subjects. Mi Yong's voice was filled with respect and fear. After learning that Ling Xiao possessed the true body of the sky demon, he no longer had any thoughts of resistance. Very well. Then I will help you undo the seal. You can cultivate in the pagoda, and one day I will return your freedom. Ling Xiao nodded and waved his hand. The chains binding Mi Yong buzzed and then vanished. Many thanks, Master. Joy flashed in Mi Yong's eyes. He stretched his muscles and let out a howl. Mi Yong, do you know who is sealed in the remaining floors? Master, this subordinate does not know. Mi Yong shook his head, his tone extremely respectful. Forget it. I'll go take a look myself. With a thought, Ling Xiao's figure instantly disappeared. However, when he reached the entrance to the second floor, he was stopped by a strange force. Sealing power? Ling Xiao frowned and gently touched the seal with his palm. However, it was not as violent as he had imagined. Instead, it was extremely gentle. Clearly, the person who set up the seal wasn't trying to stop others from going up. Instead, it was merely a reminder that the time wasn't ripe yet. According to Ling Zhao's experience, as long as one's cultivation reached the state of Paong, the seal would be easily removed. Clearly, these were all prepared for the Son of Destiny. Unfortunately, Yi Fan was dead. Ling Xiao had a treasure like the boundary-breaking talisman in his hands, so a mere seal naturally couldn't stop him. However, just as the black light in Ling Zhao's hand grew brighter and he was about to walk towards the second floor, a sweet and clear voice of a young girl suddenly came from behind him. "Why do I sense a familiar aura from you?" Ling Xiao stopped in his tracks, and the hairs on his body stood on end. Even with his divine soul's level, he couldn't sense that someone was behind him. Moreover, the 8 barren glazed pagoda had recognized him as its owner. The space within the pagoda was under his control. Even so, he still couldn't sense any stranger's aura. Ling Xiao slowly turned around and looked at the small figure who was sitting in the air not far behind him. His eyes narrowed. It was a young girl who was completely white and wearing a long black dress. She had a delicate little face and bright eyes. At this moment, she was swinging her legs and looking up and down at Ling Xiao with her big, innocent eyes. "Who are you? Such a cute girl. If I punch her, she'll cry for a long time." However, on second thought, Ling Xiao felt that it was ridiculous. There were 9 demons sealed in the pagoda, 1 for each floor. Nobody could escape. But where did this little girl in front of him come from? "Who am I? I don't know who I am." "Then who are you?" The little girl's figure flashed and appeared in front of Ling Xiao. The latter's face turned pale. He was about to activate the sky demon real body when he saw the little girl lying on his body and sniffing. Her big innocent eyes were even more puzzled. "Your smell is very nice. I like it. Where did you come from?" Ling Xiao felt that the scene in front of him was very strange. According to the usual routine, such a mysterious and eccentric little girl was definitely not a minor character. However, Ling Xiao didn't sense any fluctuation of spiritual power from her. However, she could travel through space at will. Wasn't this strange? "I came from above." The little girl pointed above her head. For a moment, Ling Xiao suspected that she was the artifact spirit of the ancient pagoda. However, if she was the artifact spirit, why didn't Ling Xiao sense it before? Now that the 8 barren glazed pagoda had recognized him as its owner, if this little girl was really the artifact spirit of the ancient pagoda, Ling Xiao had no reason not to know. Above? The second floor? Ling Xiao frowned and was even more puzzled. "I'm going back. Will you still come? Will you come and play with me?" The little girl shook her head and looked at Ling Xiao expectantly. "Yes, I will come and see you when I have time. However, shouldn't you tell me your name and where you come from?" What could Ling Xiao say? Before he figured out the little girl's background, he didn't dare to offend her. "Hee, I'll tell you the next time we meet." With that, the little girl's figure disappeared on the spot. There wasn't even the slightest ripple in space. "Miyong, my lord, do you know that little girl, just now?" "Little girl? My lord, what little girl?" Gulp. Ling Xiao swallowed hard. Seeing the confusion on Miyong's face, he suddenly felt the soles of his feet turn cold. An illusion? That's impossible. But why couldn't Miyong, a divine overlord, sense the little girl's aura? Ling Xiao felt a chill rising from the bottom of his heart. It seemed that there were still many secrets hidden in the 8 desolation glazed pagoda that he didn't know. "It's fine. You cultivate well. Tell me if you need anything. Don't leave the pagoda." With that, Ling Xiao left. If the little girl was a demon sealed in the pagoda, why didn't she escape if she could travel through space at will? Ling Xiao was afraid of meeting her again, but he was also looking forward to their next meeting. "What's wrong with my lord? A little girl? Where did this little girl come from?" Miyong stared blankly at Ling Xiao's disappearing figure. He scratched his head and walked back into the darkness. Although he didn't know which 8 other demons were sealed in the pagoda, it was obvious that there wasn't a little girl in there. My lord must be hallucinating. Well, it's been a tiring day. Chapter 60. Ling Zhao's figure reappeared in the ancient palace. Today's trip to the ruins had been very fruitful. Not only did he obtain a murderous weapon of the primordial sky demon, but he also integrated it with a Thunder Dao law, killed the Chosen One, and obtained the 9 Elixir C. No matter which fortune it would be considered heaven-defying in the Shengzhou. But now he had obtained all of them. There were so many geniuses in the Shengzhou, but how many of them were actually accompanied by a Dao law? Otherwise, why would Bai Jishi be targeted by the Blood Soul Temple as soon as she ran out? The Nine-Tail clan's strongest talent in 1,000 years was not an exaggeration. System. Owner. Ling Xiao. Identity. Young master of the Universal Demon Sect. Divine Constitution. Sky Demon True Body. Second Refinement. Forbidden Constitution. Cultivation. Middle Stage Mystic Clear. Treasure. Primordial Demon Saber. Grade Unknown. 8 Baron Glazed Demon. Subduing Pagoda. Divine Treasure. Technique. Universal Demon Art. Sky Demon Scripture. Sky Demon True Body. Talent. Eye of Nirvana. Talent. Soul Assimilation Ancient Technique. Forbidden Technique. Luck. 1400. Villain Points. 9,000. Ling Xiao looked at the additional spiritual treasure column on the system interface, and the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. The grade is unknown. The more mysterious something is, the more powerful it is. However, if not for the fact that he had transmigrated here, he would have been killed as a stepping stone the moment he met Xu Yang. Although the past few days in the northern wilderness were full of twists and turns, and seemed to be full of danger, it was still under Ling Zhao's control. After all, compared to the Shengzhou, the 4 barren lands were equivalent to the lower realm, and the strongest cultivators were only at the mystic clear level. But once he returned to the Shengzhou, things would not be as simple as they were now. As everyone knew, the Shengzhou had many large sects and ancient clans, and the forces were complicated. Even if each sect produced one prodigy, there would be a total of 108,000 prodigies. Moreover, compared to the 4 barren lands, the geniuses of the Shengzhou were naturally much more powerful and experienced. If Ling Xiao wanted to continue cultivating the forbidden physique in silence, he had to be more careful and cautious. Moreover, there were many geniuses in the Shengzhou continent, and even more supreme experts. Most of the sects, orthodoxies, and ancient families did not have many old monsters in their ranks. Even though under normal circumstances, these old things wouldn't dare to have any ideas about him. However, once Ling Xiao displayed an outrageous talent or supreme treasure, it was inevitable that he would be targeted. The world of cultivation was just that cruel. Everyone was vying for fortune and luck. Sometimes they could even disregard blood ties and kinship, let alone status and face. System, at a point to the myriad demonic arts. This time, Ling Xiao chose to increase his superficial realm. After all, if his Sky Demon True Body wanted to break through to rank 3, it still needed to fuse with 7 Dao laws. If his cultivation level was too low, he would inevitably encounter the same awkward situation as before. Buzz. 9,000 villainous points were squandered in an instant, and Ling Zhao's realm also steadily stepped into the peak of Xianqing. He was only 1 step away from Paong. Looking at the time, it's about time to go back. If Ling Xiao remembered correctly, there were only a few days left until the big day of his engagement with his fiancée. According to Ling Zhao's expectations, this engagement would definitely not go smoothly. After all, his identity here was a villain's stepping stone. Moreover, the woman who was about to be engaged to him was the famous goddess of the Shengzhou continent. A woman like her must have countless suitors behind her. Maybe one of them was a child of destiny waiting to slap him in the face. However, before that, Ling Xiao still needed to go back to the sect. He remembered that there was a true disciple of the myriad demonic arts sect who had recklessly challenged him to a fight. It's time to go back. Ling Xiao stretched his body and felt that his body was full of terrifying power. A trace of mockery flashed across his eyes. Children of destiny, quickly wash your necks and wait for me to go back and harvest you. At the entrance of the relic, Ling Zhao's figure suddenly appeared in the air. Old Yin's face trembled. Then he hastily bowed in greeting. Young master. At this moment, the old servant of the Ling family could clearly feel the change in Ling Zhao's aura. His old eyes were full of reverence. Young master is awesome. In just a few days, he is about to step into the Paong stage. Even the entire Shenzhou continent, young master's talent is definitely the best. Let's go back to Green Maple City and pick up Qingshan. Then we will go back to the Shenzhou continent. Ling Xiao said indifferently as he took the lead and flew towards Green Maple City. At this moment, in the Yi family's main hall, Yi Lufeng and the others stood in the hall, looking nervously at Yi Qingshan. Qingshan, it's been 3 days. Is there still no news of young master? Yi Lufeng felt bitter. If Ling Xiao directly went back to the Shenzhou continent, wouldn't they have been licking his boots for nothing? Or if something happened to him in the Yi family, the powerful figures of the Ling family would not let them go. No. Yi Qingshan shook her head. Her beautiful face also had a trace of haggardness. That day, Ling Xiao left in a hurry. No matter how she looked at it, it seemed that he had encountered big trouble. In the blink of an eye, 2 days had passed, and young master still had not appeared. Could it be that something had really happened to him, or did he not want her anymore? Thinking of the shame on the face of the Xianqing demoness, Yi Qingshan felt a burst of annoyance. What should we do? Yi Lufeng sat on the wooden chair, dejectedly. Behind him, the faces of all the Yi family members also had a trace of uneasiness. What's wrong with Master Yi? You look so sad. At this moment, a familiar teasing voice suddenly came from the space above the main hall. Yi Qingshan's beautiful face was stunned. When she looked up again, Ling Zhao's figure had appeared in front of her. Young master. Yi Qingshan's eyes suddenly became a little red. In the past 2 days, she had hardly closed her eyes and had been looking forward to Ling Zhao's return. Seeing Yi Qingshan's dark eyes and the tears in her eyes, Ling Zhao's heart suddenly felt a little touched. What's wrong? Did you miss me? Young master, where did you go? Why did you come back so late? Yi Qingshan instinctively threw herself into Ling Zhao's arms, and her voice was a little wronged. Feeling the beauty's trembling body in his arms, Ling Zhao's face immediately raised a smile. Now that he had eaten Yi Qingshan, there should be no more obstacles, right? I took care of some things. Qingshan, pack up. We will return to Shenzhou today. Ling Xiao did not see Feng Jiao Er's figure in the Yi family's main hall, and there was a faint chill in his eyes. Where did Feng Jiao Er go? She said that she had something important to do in the sect and had to go back. Young master, are we really going to Shenzhou? Yi Qingshan seemed a little excited. After all, that place was only set foot in by the powerhouses of Paong. She was a sober person. Would she lose face for young master if she went there? Of course, Master Yi. Here are some pills that should be able to help you enter the profound, clear stage. Thank you for your hospitality these past few days. Ling Xiao casually threw a jade bottle to Yi Lufeng and then walked out with his arm around Yi Qingshan's shoulder. The beauty and fortune were all in his hands. This trip was not in vain. Chapter 61. In front of the Yi family's gate, Elder Yin stood in the air and waved his hand. A space crack appeared instantly. The sky suddenly darkened. The clouds were broken, and a demonic wind blew. What's that? At this time, countless experts in Green Maple City raised their heads and looked at the terrifying figure in the air. Their eyes were filled with fear. In the past few days, they had been frightened by the group of monsters in the eastern wilderness. Every tree and bush was an enemy. When they saw Elder Yin's unfamiliar face, they couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. Some of the more cowardly people were even ready to use their trump cards to escape from this place. That man seems to be Lord Ling Xiao. Lord Ling Xiao? Wasn't he scared away by that demoness? Young master, the passage is open. We can go back now. Elder Yin turned around and bowed to Ling Xiao. When Ling Xiao first came down, his mother, the moon of Xianyuan, had specially set up this teleportation array in the Danyuan sacred ground for him. This was naturally to prevent Ling Xiao from accidentally falling into someone else's territory when crossing the boundary, which would cause unnecessary trouble. Ling people were very strong, but there were also many people in the Shengzhou who wanted to kill Ling Xiao. Young master, don't you want to take Feng Jiao heir to the Shengzhou? Yi Qingchan stood beside Ling Xiao, looking a little confused. I didn't want to take her there in the first place. Ling Xiao smiled indifferently. Of course, a girl with tea skills wasn't worth his time. However, if Feng Jiao heir was here today, even if he didn't take her to the Shengzhou, he would definitely leave her some fortune. Unfortunately, she wasn't here. Not to mention whether she had something important to do in the sect or not. It was her fate. Oh, by the way, young master, that demoness Xianqing came to find you. She said she asked you to go to the Thousand Demons' sacred ground to find her when you have time. By Jishi? Why did she come? Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows. Then a smile appeared on his face. Could it be that she couldn't hold back the longing in her heart? Oh, my damn charm. How would I know? Yi Qingchan pouted and said unhappily. Hee, don't worry about her. Let's go. And Yi Qingchan immediately grabbed Ling Xiao's arm nervously. She was still a little afraid of this array that could cross between two realms. Hold on tight to me, or else I'll be sent to another place by the power of space. When that happens, it'll be troublesome. Ling Xiao deliberately scared Yi Qingchan. She opened her arms and hugged his waist tightly. The way she closed her eyes was really cute. But at this moment, in the distant sky, a demonic aura suddenly pressed down. All the experts in Green Maple City were stunned. When they looked up again, they saw a middle-aged man in a golden robe and a golden crown slowly walking over from the void. His aura was already at the Xianqing stage. Behind him, countless demons from the eastern wilderness followed closely behind. It was as if they had turned out in full force. That's the demon god Mountain Lord, the strongest warrior in the Four Barren Lands. Demon god Mountain Lord, run! The demons are here to massacre this city again. Damn that Ling Xiao. He killed the demons of the demon god mountain. The demon god Mountain Lord is probably here to seek revenge. I knew it. This bastard is definitely up to no good. Beep. The host is being scolded. You have received 500 villain points. How is that possible? Ling Xiao was taken aback. Then, a strange smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. With a flash, he appeared in midair. He had never heard of the demon god Mountain Lord, but he could kill a Xianqing stage demon with a wave of his hand. You are Lord Ling Xiao. The demon god Mountain Lord narrowed his eyes and looked at the black-robed young man in front of him. His face suddenly darkened. That's right. Ling Xiao stood with his hands behind his back. His expression was calm. With a beauty in his arms, he really looked like a young master from a chaotic world. What are you waiting for? The demon god Mountain Lord roared. Many experts in the city were so frightened that they immediately circulated their spiritual energy and ran out of the city. Ling Xiao was really a jinx. Ever since he came to Green Maple City, he had not had a single day of peace. Hurry up and kowtow to Lord Ling Xiao and admit your wrongs. But in the next moment, all the demons in the sky suddenly knelt down and cried out to Ling Xiao. Young master, please spare us. The fleeing figures instantly froze on the spot. Even Yi Qingchan's originally nervous little face became sluggish. In Green Maple City, all the experts stared at the demon god Mountain Lord, the strongest of the Four Barren Lands, slowly kneeling in front of Ling Xiao. Other than shock, there was also a trace of fear in their eyes. Lord Ling Xiao was unparalleled in the world. Were you the one who scolded Lord Ling Xiao just now? Whoever scolded the young master will die a horrible death. Piss for nothing, Bai Jishi went back. Ling Xiao raised an eyebrow. It seemed that these people knew his identity. Indeed, the older one was the more afraid of death. In the face of death, dignity and humiliation did not matter. Young master, the ninth princess returned to Shengzhou yesterday. The demon god Mountain Lord maintained his kneeling position, afraid that Ling Xiao would be displeased. Others did not know what Ling people meant, but he knew that if the young master wanted to kill, the entire demon god mountain would be destroyed in an instant. Even 1,000 demons' holy land would not be able to protect him. "Oh, let's go." Ling Xiao nodded, ignoring the wailing demons. He looked at the Yi family members again and did not hesitate to enter the array with Yi Qingchuan. "Farewell, young master. Farewell, young master." Buzz! The space around them began to change. The stars in front of them changed, and they felt a little dizzy. Yi Qingchuan's eyes were still closed, but Ling Xiao's expression turned serious. With his original personality, he had caused a lot of trouble in Xingzhou. If not for his parents' powerful cultivation and Ling people's power, he would have been beaten to death and buried long ago. Even so, there were still people in Xingzhou who wanted to kill him. His younger brother Ling Tian was one of them. After all, the enmity of stealing the Dan C was irreconcilable. According to his plan, he was probably already secretly preparing to make a move against him. Secondly, there were a few core disciples in the Thousand Demons sect who did not like Ling Xiao's status as the young master. They believed that his status was not because of his strength, but because of his family background. Therefore, in the past few years, those little bastards from the Thousand Demons sect had banded together to oppose him. They had even joined forces with other sects to deal with him. It was a pity that even though Ling Xiao was a villain's stepping stone, his identity was there. If one wanted to step on him, they had to be at least the heavenly mandate. The core disciples of the Thousand Demons sect obviously did not have such luck. The last one was Ling Xiao's fiancée. Although he had never met her, he had heard of her reputation. She was the most mysterious force in the eastern border of Shenzhou, the goddess of the ethereal Dao Palace. It was rumored that the ancestors of the ethereal Dao Palace had ascended to the immortal world long ago and cultivated the Dao of ruthlessness. However, no one knew why the current palace lord of the Holy Ji Palace had personally chosen a marriage for the goddess. If Ling Xiao was a sunny young man and had such a background, this marriage would not be bad. However, Ling Xiao's notoriety was known to everyone in Shenzhou. He bullied men and women, was arrogant and ignorant, arrogant and wanton. The goddess of the ethereal Dao Palace was one of the top geniuses in Shenzhou. Needless to say about her cultivation, she was also known as the #1 beauty in Shenzhou. She had the reputation of bringing disaster to all races. It was even rumored that the goddess of the Dao Palace had to cover her face when she went out. Otherwise, it would inevitably lead to chaos. A proud daughter of heaven, like her, would definitely look down on Ling Xiao, who is the second generation of the Demon King clan. Therefore, the engagement banquet might also be troublesome. Thinking of this, Ling Xiao felt a headache coming on. As expected, he would not be able to get rid of his identity as a stepping stone for the time being. However, at the same time, he was no longer the same as before. Although he carried the identity of a stepping stone, his personality and thoughts were no longer comparable to that of the second generation of the Demon King clan. Moreover, he was more familiar with these old plots than anyone else. What younger brother or sister? They were most likely asking for a beating. As for his fellow disciples, he could kill them if they needed to. As for that cold and aloof fiancée, if she really did not know how to appreciate favors, Ling Xiao did not mind letting her understand what it meant to be a villain. Although he did not have much luck, his current status, cultivation, numerous treasures, and talent were all top existences among the younger generation. Under such circumstances, if he was easily trampled to death, there must be something wrong with his IQ. Buzz! With a buzzing sound, the scene in front of Ling Xiao suddenly froze. This place was the peak of an immortal mountain, surrounded by clouds and mist, and the sound of Dao lingered in the air. Occasionally, a few cranes flew overhead, giving people a sense of peace and comfort. "Shower, you're finally back. Mother missed you so much." Before Ling Xiao could react, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him and hugged him in her arms without any explanation. Mother, mother." Ling Xiao struggled for a long time before he broke free from the arms of the beautiful woman in the palace dress. The person who came was naturally Ling Xiao's mother, the owner of the Danyuan sacred ground, the moon of Xianyuan. The moon of Xianyuan was indeed very beautiful. She was wearing a red silk dress with a very low neckline. Her face was like a hibiscus, her eyebrows were like slender willows, and her peach blossom eyes were captivating. Her skin was whiter than snow, and her black hair was tied into a high bun. The pearls on her head shone dazzlingly under the sun. At this time, she was staring at Ling Xiao with a doting expression and sizing him up. "Oh, my son, you've only been gone for a few days. Why have you lost weight? Hurry, I have a few fifth-grade pills here. Eat them quickly to nourish yourself." The moon of Xianyuan looked distressed, which made Yi Qingchan's eyes twitch inexplicably. Fifth-grade pills to nourish himself? What kind of tone was this? How generous! The young master's background was indeed terrifying. At this time, a touch of bitterness flashed across Ling Xiao's face. Since ancient times, a loving mother had spoiled her son. The ancients did not deceive me. With the moon of Xuanyuan's degree of doting on Ling Xiao, it was no wonder that he could develop such an arrogant and overbearing temperament. She even dug out the elixir sea of her younger brother and placed it in Ling Xiao's body. Perhaps even if Ling Xiao said that he wanted the stars and the moon in the sky, the moon of Xianyuan would not hesitate to pluck them for him. Mother, mother. I didn't lose weight. I really didn't lose weight. I still have something to do. I have to go back to the sect first. Ling Xiao turned around and was about to leave when the moon of Xianyuan suddenly shouted coldly, "Stop!" Ling Xiao's expression turned bitter. A sudden pain came from his ear. He was directly carried by the moon of Xianyuan to the distant main hall. "Mother, let go of me. I really have something to do." What's the matter? Why would it disturb us from having our meal? Insaner, take that girl to the inner sect to rest for a day. The young master will not leave today. The moon of Xianyuan did not look at Yi Qingchan from beginning to end, or a sober person could not enter her eyes. Chapter 62. Did you find what you went down to look for? In the main hall, the moon of Xianyuan sat on a golden chair and looked at Ling Xiao, who looked helpless. Her tone was inexplicably serious. Among the Ling people, only she and Ling Xiao's father knew that Ling Xiao had the sky demon body. This time, Ling Xiao insisted on going to the Four Wastelands because the demon body was summoned. The moon of Xianyuan was still a little worried about the demon will in Ling Xiao's body. After all, this matter involved too many things. Found it. Ling Xiao's mind moved, and the supreme demon saber instantly appeared. A suffocating and terrifying demonic aura instantly surged out, scaring the moon of Xianyuan so much that her face turned pale. A spiritual light surged out from her body and directly imprisoned the space where the demon saber was. "Hurry up and put it away." Ling Xiao smiled awkwardly and casually recalled the demon saber back to the Soul Palace. With the ancient Panga stone as a cover, Ling Xiao believed that even a venerable realm expert would not be able to find any clues about him. What a terrifying demonic creature. No wonder it could pass through the realm barrier to summon you. But Xiao, unless you have no other choice, you must not use this saber in front of others. Even if you use it, you must ensure that you can kill the other party. The moon of Xuanyuan's expression gradually became serious. Her beautiful eyes turned slightly, and her tone was cold. "Have San and that little girl seen this saber before?" "Mother, what are you doing?" A few black lines appeared on Ling Xiao's head. The moon of Xianyuan was indeed the villain's mother. Her way of doing things was ruthless and ruthless. No wonder she could dig out other people's elixir seas. But at this moment, Ling Xiao was indeed a little touched. He was an orphan in his previous life. This was probably the only similarity between him and those children of destiny. So he had never experienced the love of a parent. Looking at the moon of Xianyuan in front of him, he felt very close. "Xiao, you need to know that you will stand against the entire Shenzhou sooner or later. Mother can still protect you now, but in the future. So you must be extremely careful." A trace of sadness appeared on the moon of Xuanyuan's beautiful face. "If possible, She wished that Ling Xiao was just an ordinary teenager. Even if she did not have any talent, based on her attainments in the alchemy Dao, she could also forcefully push him to the divine king realm. Mother, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Ling Xiao naturally understood what the moon of Xianyuan was worried about. He immediately put on a solemn expression and said in a calm tone, The moon of Xianyuan swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. If it was in the past, if she tried to persuade Ling Xiao like this, the answer she would get would definitely be, even if others know, what can they do to me, or something along those lines. However, at this moment, looking at Ling Xiao's expression and tone, the moon of Xianyuan felt that it was somewhat unfamiliar. Xiao, don't move. Open your mind. The moon of Xianyuan did not say anything and directly rushed in front of Ling Xiao. Her divine consciousness surged in her eyes as she began to check Ling Xiao's sea of consciousness. She did not believe that Ling Xiao's temperament had changed after going to the Four Desolates once. Could it be that he had been possessed? Mother. The bitterness at the corner of Ling Xiao's mouth became even more intense, but he did not argue with the moon of Xianyuan. Instead, he took the initiative to release his divine consciousness and let the moon of Xianyuan examine him properly. However, when the moon of Xianyuan saw the Black Palace and the 8 Desolates' ancient pagoda in Ling Xiao's sea of consciousness, her face instantly became blank. In front of them, even with the cultivation of the moon of Xianyuan, she felt a deep sense of pressure. Xiao, where did you go? Before Ling Xiao went to the Four Desolates, the moon of Xianyuan was certain that there were no secrets on him that she did not know. However, at this moment, Ling Xiao's sea of consciousness alone was enough to shock her to this extent. Could it be that this foolish son of hers ran into some kind of dog's hit luck and fell into a treasure pit? Also, what's with the aura on your body? Did you have a breakthrough? Just now, she was so emotional that the moon of Xianyuan did not notice the change in Ling Xiao's cultivation level at all. At this moment, looking at the familiar face before her, the moon of Xianyuan suddenly felt a little lost. Mother, I was just about to ask you, have you ever heard of this treasure called the 8 Desolates' Glazed Pagoda? The Black Palace was transformed from the ancient Panga stone. It came from a system. Ling Xiao was well aware of this. However, the 8 Desolates' Glazed Pagoda was something he snatched from Yifan. There were actually 9 demons sealed inside. Logically speaking, such a treasure should be in the hands of the sacred sect. How could it have fallen into the hands of the 9-tailed clan? Moreover, who was the little girl he saw in the pagoda today? Why did she say that there was an aura on him that she liked? The 8 Desolates' Glazed Pagoda. The moon of Xianyuan frowned slightly. After thinking for a long time, she could not think of such a pagoda in the Shenzhou continent, and immediately shook her head. Most of the divine treasures and Dao weapons of the Shenzhou continent are on the divine weapon ranking of the Thousand Secrets Pavilion. I have never heard of such a treasure. It's not on the divine weapon ranking. Is it not from the Shenzhou continent? Ling Xiao instantly thought of something. For example, the Shenzhou continent was the so-called upper realm to the Four Desolates. Ling Xiao guessed that there was no upper realm above the Shenzhou continent. After all, there had been so many powerful beings since ancient times, and some of them had left behind Dao relics that had fallen in the Shenzhou continent. However, some of them had disappeared into thin air. Where did they go? Were they like the experts of the Four Desolates, who broke through the space barrier after reaching a certain level of cultivation and went to the upper realm? Moreover, although the Shenzhou continent was a domain of its own, over the years, several secret realms had appeared one after another that were connected to other small worlds. This meant that, besides the Four Desolates' sacred continent, the human and demon races, there were other spaces and other races in the world. It was just that no one had discovered them yet. This was quite in line with the writing habits of those lousy authors in his previous life. If one's results were good, one could easily summon the 10,000 races of the void and the 3,000 great worlds. If one's results were not good, one could just obediently mingle in this world. Xiao, Are you talking about the Black Pagoda in your knowledge sea? When the moon of Xianyuan had checked Ling Zhao's knowledge sea, although she had felt an endless pressure, she had not sensed any trace of the remnant soul of an expert. Therefore, it seemed that Ling Xiao had most likely had a fortuitous encounter in the Four Desolates and obtained a treasure that changed his personality. That's right. I took it for someone called Yi Fan. According to my speculation, Yi Fan's mother should be a member of the Nine-Tailed clan. Ling Xiao nodded and looked expectantly at the moon of Xianyuan. If he wanted to find out the origin of this ancient pagoda, he had to start with Yi Fan's mother. As the master of the Danyuan sacred land, the moon of Xianyuan had a good understanding of the various sects and races of the Shenzhou continent. Perhaps she would know some secrets that Ling Xiao did not know. Nine-Tailed clan? Sure enough, the moon of Xianyuan pondered for a long time and suddenly said a name that Ling Xiao had never heard before. Could it be Bai Jiro's child? Bai Jiro? Ling Xiao's interest was immediately piqued. This name sounded like the mother of the righteous path. Yes, rumor has it that the first princess of the Nine-Tailed clan, Bai Jiro, once made a grave mistake, and her cultivation was crippled by the Nine-Tailed clan, and she was thrown into the Four Desolates. But who would have thought that Bai Jiro would fall in love with a human and give birth to a child for him? In the end, the Nine-Tailed Fox Empress was furious and personally descended to the lower world to capture him. Could it be that Bai Jiro gave him this ancient pagoda? A look of contemplation flashed across the moon of Xuanyuan's eyes, while Ling Xiao asked curiously, "Made a grave mistake? Mother, do you know what grave mistake Bai Jiro made?" Chapter 63. I'm not sure about the details. After all, this involves the Nine-Tailed clan's secret. However, Shower, you must not expose the fact that you killed Bai Jiro's son. The moon of Xuanyuan's tone was inexplicably heavy. That Bai Jiro was once known as the #1 prodigy of the Fei clan. Her talent was enough to suppress all clans. Even though her cultivation has been crippled, no one thinks that she was imprisoned by the Fox Empress. Perhaps she stayed behind willingly. So powerful? Ling Xiao was stunned. This matched his understanding of the chosen child's background. He had a mother with a prominent background in the upper world. In the beginning, he was ridiculed and despised by his mother's clan. He was scolded as an ant the most. Later on, he was defeated and forced to go to his mother's clan to bring her back. What a pity. Yi Fan had the fate of being the chosen child, but he did not have the luck. Otherwise, with the Shenzhou continent being so big, who would be the strongest if these chosen children grew up? Even now, many readers were curious about Mu Chen's chances of winning against Lin Dong. In my opinion, whoever comes out later will have a higher chance of winning. However, Ling Xiao was even more curious now. What exactly did Bai Jiro do back then? Where did she get the 8 desolation glazed soul-suppressing pagoda? It seemed that he had to ask Bai Jishi to investigate this matter. After all, Ling Xiao had killed Yi Fan. Sooner or later, he would be exposed. As long as Bai Jiro put in a little effort, she would know that Yi Fan's death was related to him. Ling Xiao had to figure out her identity and methods. This way, he could make some plans in advance. As for Bai Jishi, if it was in the past, she would definitely tell the clan about the northern wilderness. However, now that her mind was controlled by Ling Xiao, she would not do anything that would harm him. It seems that this chess piece has been placed in the right place. The moon of Xianyuan was satisfied with Ling Xiao's calmness. She immediately took out a bottle of pills and handed it to him. This is a bottle of level 5 spirit surge pills that Mother has just refined. Xiao, no matter what you face in the future, Mother will be your strong backing. Mother, there really is something that I need your help with. Ling Xiao smiled embarrassedly, but before he could open his mouth, the moon of Xuanyuan's face suddenly turned serious. You can't bring that woman from the lower realm with you. You can't have any thoughts about her. Ling Xiao was a little confused. His original intention was to let the moon of Xianyuan think of a way to help Nine Nether reconstruct his body. But what was his mother thinking? Mother, there are only a few more days until the goddess of the ethereal Dao Palace gets engaged to you. How can you bring a woman with you now? Haven't you heard a lot about your reputation over the years? Do you know what they call you now? The Sea King. You'd better remember this. Mother, no. I just wanted the goddess of the ethereal Tao Palace is rumored to be a peerless beauty that hasn't been seen in 3,000 years. Her cultivation is tyrannical, and she cultivates the path of ruthlessness. She is as pure as ice and as pure as jade. If you can become her path companion, in a few years, the Shengzhou will be your world. Be good, listen to Mother, and love her well. Ling Xiao wanted to cry, but had no tears. Since the goddess of the ethereal Tao Palace cultivated the path of ruthlessness, how could she really fall in love with him? His parents were most likely lusting after her body and wanted to improve the Ling family's genes. Mother, I just want to ask you if there's a way to reconstruct my body. Ling Xiao finally said what he wanted to say in one breath. The moon of Xianyuan was obviously stunned. Reconstruct your body? Who wants to reconstruct their body? I saved 9 nether clansmen in the northern wilderness. She was harmed by the saint when she was alive, and now only a remnant soul is left. Mother, do you have a way to help her reconstruct her body? Ling Xiao sighed. With a mother like this, who in the Shengzhou would dare to provoke him? It was likely that half of Ling Xiao's reputation as a peerless genius of the myriad Dao demon sect was real, and the other half might really be due to the accumulation of his parents' reputation. After all, no one wanted to become enemies with him and attract the revenge of the protective moon of Xianyuan. However, on the path to immortality, relying solely on the protection of one's parents would definitely not go far. This was especially true for a villain like Ling Xiao. If he became arrogant because of this, he would not be far from death. The 9 Nether clan? Offended the saint? The moon of Xianyuan frowned, and after a long while, her eyes suddenly widened. Xiao, you can't even take care of yourself. How can you meddle in the affairs of the saint? No, you have to hurry up and send that 9 Nether clan expert away. Otherwise, if the saint finds out, do you still want to die? If there was anyone in the Shengzhou that could make the moon of Xianyuan afraid, it was probably the saint. Even with the moon of Xuanyuan's cultivation and connections, it was inevitable that she would feel some despair in the face of such a powerhouse that was above the human race. Mother, I will have to face the saints sooner or later. Isn't it good to take advantage of the fact that they are unprepared to accumulate more resources? Do I have to wait until the whole world is my enemy before I think about winning people's hearts? Ling Xiao smiled indifferently. There was no trace of panic in his eyes. Instead, there was a deep meaning in them. The moon of Xianyuan was stunned once again. She really did not expect that in just a few days, Ling Xiao's personality would become so calm. My Xiao has grown up. The moon of Xianyuan lowered her head and smiled faintly. She looked at Ling Xiao with gratification in her eyes. Good. Since you want to accumulate your own resources, I will definitely support you. Give me 3 days. I will refine the pills and send them to you. Will you go back to the Ling family or the Universal Demon sect? Mother, I have to go back to the sect first, then return to the Ling family. You can send the pills back to the Ling family. Ling Xiao hesitated for a moment. In the end, he could not help but remind the moon of Xianyuan, Mother, regarding Ling Tian, I think you should not make things difficult for him in the future. You and Father have not seen each other for a long time. I will find a way to untie this dead knot. Ling Tianlin, that bastard, I don't want to see him. Back then, because of that wild woman, he always went against me. Later, because of her son, he always disliked me. Now, it's good that I don't see anyone. It's peaceful. The moon of Xianyuan crossed her arms, and her face was a little gloomy. But Ling Xiao knew that his mother did all this for him. If it were not for the fact that he was born with a crippled meridian and did not have a Dan Si, she would not have risked universal condemnation to dig out Ling Tian's Dan Si alive and incurred the wrath of his father. Sigh, Mother, you have worked hard. Ling Xiao respectfully bowed to the moon of Xianyuan. Her body trembled as she turned to look at Ling Xiao. Her beautiful eyes were already filled with tears. Ha, Xiao, you have really grown up. I am very happy today. Mother, although Qin Chan came from the lower realm, she is loyal to me. Her talent is also terrifying. Do you think there is a place for her to stay? Ling Xiao smiled and suddenly asked. Now that Yi Qingchuan was devoted to him, Ling Xiao was not worried that she would have second thoughts. After all, the models of these destined women had always been infatuated and devoted. Didn't those female protagonists who were taken away by powerful forces at the beginning of the story wait an entire book's time before finally reuniting with the protagonist? It was just that Ling Xiao had just returned to the Shenzhou continent and had many enemies. Yi Qingchuan's cultivation was only in the awakened spirit stage, so it was not safe for her to stay by his side. Chapter 64. What kind of martial arts did she practice before? Since the moon of Xianyuan knew Ling Xiao's current thoughts, she naturally would not stop him from accumulating connections. Moreover, the girl was extremely beautiful and had a superior temperament. It would be a good idea for her to accompany her son. Although the moon of Xianyuan did not like fickle men, it did not prevent her from wanting Ling Xiao to have multiple wives and concubines. A good parent must have double standards. The one from the ethereal Dao Palace must become the young mistress of the Ling family, and no one could stop her. But other than the young mistress, it would be a joke if an outstanding young man like Ling Xiao did not have a few beauties by his side. She should be practicing the way of the sword. How could Ling Xiao know what the moon of Xianyuan was thinking at this moment? There was a trace of seriousness on his face. The way of the sword? How about this? You send her to the Heavenly Sword Immortal Sect. I have some friendship with their sect master. Take my jade token. The moon of Xianyuan casually threw a jade token to Ling Xiao, who immediately smiled gratefully. Before the moon of Xianyuan could react, his figure flashed and slipped out of the hall. Mother is busy every day, so I won't disturb you any longer. I will come to see you again when I have time. Mother, don't forget to refine a pill to reconstruct my body. You ungrateful brat. The moon of Xianyuan frowned slightly, but in the end, she did not stop Ling Xiao, but there was a profound look in her eyes. 9. Holy Lord. A soft voice suddenly sounded in the darkness. Go investigate Bai Jiro of the Nine-Tail clan and find out about the past of the Nine Nether clan. At this moment, the moon of Xianyuan was no longer as long-winded as before. Her beautiful face was 70% dignified and 30% worried. She had the demeanor of an overlord. Although the moon of Xuanyuan's cultivation was not the best in the Shenzhou, her attainments in alchemy were recognized as the best in the Shenzhou. The leaders of the various forces had more or less begged for pills from her. Therefore, in terms of connections, the moon of Xianyuan was no match for her. Even Ling Tianlin was no match for her. Shower, don't worry. Even if the entire world is your enemy, Mother will definitely pave a bloody path for you. Boom! An invisible flame quietly spread out, and even a Jew, who was in the darkness, felt an inexplicable palpitation. Yes, Holy Lord, a Jew has gone. Danyuan Holy Land, in the inner hall. Yi Qingchuan clasped her hands together in front of her chest and looked anxiously outside the hall. Miss Qingchuan, you can eat something and rest for a while. Young master will be back soon. Elder Een stood behind her with a helpless look on his face. Yi Qingchuan had been very nervous ever since she saw the moon of Xianyuan. She felt like a new daughter-in-law meeting her mother-in-law for the first time. However, Elder Een knew very well that the moon of Xianyuan did not look at Yi Qingchuan from beginning to end, which meant that she had no intention of letting her stay by Ling Zhao's side. It made sense. Ling Zhao's identity in the Shenzhou was enough to be called unparalleled in the world. No matter how beautiful Yi Qingchuan was, she was just a person from the Four Desolate Lands. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. Qingchuan, what are you doing standing here? The space trembled quietly, and Ling Zhao's figure instantly appeared in the hall. Seeing the nervousness in Yi Qingchuan's eyes, Ling Xiao was obviously stunned. What's wrong? Haven't you been looking forward to coming to the Shenzhou? Why are you unhappy now that you are here? Young master, did that senior say something? Yi Qingchuan blushed and lowered her head shyly. Senior? Oh, are you talking about my mother? Ling Xiao immediately understood what Yi Qingchuan was worried about, and a smile rose from the corners of his mouth. Little fool, of course Mother praised you a lot, but I haven't seen her in a long time, so we had a few private conversations. Really? Senior praised me? Hee hee, young master, what did Senior praise me about? The haze on Yi Qingchuan's face was swept away, and a brilliant smile blossomed on her face. Qingchuan, there's something I want to discuss with you. Ling Zhao's tone suddenly became serious, and Elder Yin wisely disappeared from the spot. Young master, what's the matter? Yi Qingchuan was a little disappointed, and her expression became uneasy again. Although she was a heaven's pride in the northern desolate lands, in the Shengzhou, she was even less than an ant. In particular, when a young master's mother had looked at her, she had felt a pressure that she had never felt before. That kind of terrifying pressure that was like the might of the heavens almost caused Yi Qingchuan to lose her mind. A single look was enough to decide a person's life or death. What kind of terrifying cultivation was this? The Shengzhou was indeed terrifying. Don't be nervous. I just want to discuss with you. Ling Xiao tried his best to make his tone as gentle as possible, afraid that he would make Yi Qingchuan feel uneasy. You see, you practice the sword path, I practice the demonic path, and my mother's sect is a pill sect, so neither is suitable for you to practice. Therefore, I want to send you to another ancient sect that practices the sword path, so that you can raise your cultivation faster. What do you think? Ling Xiao let out a bitter laugh. He really couldn't bear to abandon Yi Qingchuan when they had just arrived in the Shengzhou. However, what he was about to do next was far too dangerous. Ling Xiao would be able to relax if he could settle her down as soon as possible. So, young master, love will disappear, right? Sure enough, a trace of sadness flashed across Yi Qingchuan's pretty face. She looked at Ling Xiao with teary eyes, looking rather pitiful. How could that be? I just want you to grow faster so that we can be together every day. I have too many enemies in the Shengzhou, and there are many things that I need to deal with. Qingchuan, can you trust me? Ling Xiao reached out and hugged Yi Qingchuan in his arms, comforting her softly. I trust you, young master. You won't abandon me. Yes, the Heavenly Sword Immortal Sect is one of the strongest sword sects in the eastern border of the Shengzhou. Their sect master, Duan Wuyong, has already stepped into the Emperor realm. Qingchuan, go and cultivate well. I will visit you when I have time. Ling Xiao hesitated for a moment. Then a sharp glint flashed across his eyes. Qingchuan, open your mind. I will give you something. Young master. Yi Qingchuan was slightly taken aback. At that moment, a dark green luster suddenly appeared in Ling Xiao's eyes. At the same time, the space in the entire hall seemed to be shattered by an unparalleled sword intent. Yi Qingchuan was dumbfounded as she watched the wisp of green light enter her sea of consciousness. The next moment, her delicate body suddenly trembled. Qingchuan, this is a wisp of sword Dao principle. Fuse with it carefully. Don't be impatient. But before Ling Xiao could finish his words, the dark light on Yi Qingchuan's body suddenly flourished. A monstrous sword intent soared into the sky, creating a 100-foot-long crack on the roof of the hall. She fused with it just like that? Ling Xiao was stunned for a moment. Then a look of realization flashed across his eyes. She was indeed a reincarnator with innate wisdom. Even if Yi Qingchuan had not fully awakened her memories, her understanding of the origin of Tao principles was incomparable to that of ordinary people. Well, in this way, she would definitely be valued more when she joined the Heavenly Sword Immortal Sect. Chapter 65. Yi Qingchuan stood in place with her beautiful eyes closed. Sword intent surged around her, and soon she attracted countless prying eyes. The moon of Xianyuan had already appeared outside the main hall. He looked at the girl in green with a thoughtful expression. The power of Dao Law. Even among the famous geniuses of the Shengzhou continent, few could comprehend and fuse it. But this girl from the lower world had actually fused with a wisp of Dao Law. Looks like my son has good taste. Yi Qingchuan suddenly opened her beautiful eyes, which seemed to contain endless ice and snow. A wisp of coldness mixed with unparalleled sharpness instantly surged out. Even Ling Xiao could not help but frown slightly. Demonic light flickered around his body, and only then did he manage to block that strange power. "Huh? Sir, what's wrong? Are you okay?" The coldness in Yi Qingchan's eyes gradually dissipated. She glanced at the messy main hall, and her expression suddenly became a little confused. "I'm fine." Ling Xiao shook his head and smiled. He looked up at his mother. "Qingchan, how do you feel?" To be honest, Ling Xiao had long known that Yi Qingchan's identity was special, but he did not expect her to be able to fuse with the Tao Law so quickly. Moreover, her luck value had already reached 1,000 points. It was obvious that she was slowly waking up, but Ling Xiao did not know what she would become in the end. "I'm fine. It's just... Yi Qingchan hesitated. Finally, she seemed to have made up her mind. She looked at Ling Xiao and said, "Sir, sometimes I feel like I'm another person. There seems to be a very terrifying power in my body that I can't control at all. That's because you're not strong enough. When your cultivation reaches the Paong stage, perhaps all the mysteries will be solved." Ling Xiao nodded and smiled. This was the first time Yi Qingchan had taken the initiative to mention Su Hui to him. It was obvious that this girl had completely let down her guard against him. "Don't worry. No matter what happens, I will be by your side." "Me too. Young master, I will definitely work hard to cultivate so that I can be by your side sooner." Yi Qingchan bit her red lips tightly, and her eyes were filled with unwavering determination. She had already thought it through. Even if she was by young master's side now, she would at most be a burden. Only with sufficient strength could they accompany the young master to roam the world. Young master said that he had many enemies. Young master's enemy was Qing Chan's enemy. One day, when my path to immortality is complete, Qing Chan will protect young master with my life. Let's go. I'll send you to the Heavenly Sword Immortal Sect. Ling Xiao reached out and held Yi Qingchan's jade-like hand. He walked up to the moon of Xianyuan. "Mother, her name is Yi Qingchan. She's my woman. That's right. I hope that one day, the two of you can stand shoulder to shoulder." The moon of Xianyuan calmly glanced at Yi Qingchan and suddenly took out 2 items from his bosom. One was a porcelain white jade bottle, and the other was a golden feather robe. "There are 100 third-grade spirit-gathering pills in this bottle. After you finish eating, send someone to ask for more. This golden feather robe is a high-grade divine artifact. Before I stepped into the divine king realm, it had never left my body." After saying that, the moon of Xianyuan took a deep look at Yi Qingchan, and a smile suddenly appeared on his face. "The Heavenly Sword Immortal Sect is not far from my Danyuan sacred ground. If you're bored, you can come and chat with me at any time." Thank you, senior." Yi Qingchan looked at Ling Xiao nervously. Her pair of jade-like hands rubbed the corner of her clothes helplessly. Just now, the moon of Xuanyuan's indifference made Yi Qingchan instinctively feel endless pressure. But at this time, her words of standing side by side with Ling Xiao in Yi Qingchan's eyes was a kind of encouragement and also a kind of spur. The moon of Xianyuan meant that she had to have enough strength to stand beside Ling Xiao. Yi Qingchan had never been a brainless fool. On the contrary, her shrewdness was somewhat deep in Ling Xiao's eyes. Since she had the opportunity now, she naturally would not let it go easily. She only needed some time to prove to everyone that she, Yi Qingchan, had the strength to stand side by side with the young master. "Accept it." Ling Xiao smiled. His mother's help was wonderful. In this way, even if Yi Qingchan awakened her memories in the future, she would probably remember her kindness. "Your 9-dragon golden carriage has been prepared for you. Go." With that, the moon of Xianyuan turned and left. In the square in front of the main hall, a golden carriage pulled by 9 black dragons was quietly parked. A terrifying and ferocious demonic aura instantly rushed towards them. It's a dragon. Yi Qingchan had never seen such terrifying demonic beasts. Each black dragon had a terrifying body that was dozens of feet long. They were covered in black scales and looked ferocious and terrifying. They were not inferior to the great demons of the eastern wilderness, but they were demonic beasts specially used to pull the young master's carriage. What was the difference between them and cows? It's a dragon. Ling Xiao shook his head. Even with his noble status, he did not dare to use a true dragon to pull a carriage. The strongest person in the 10,000 demons' sacred land was an azure dragon. It was said that a trace of ancestral dragon blood flowed in its body. His dignity was not something that anyone dared to offend. But even so, a carriage pulled by 9 dragons was enough to show off in the Shengzhou. Ling Xiao was indeed the young master of the Ling people, the demonic sect's young master. He was arrogant and high-profile enough. Let's go. I'll show you the foundation of the Shengzhou sword sect. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. He carried Yi Qingchan and landed on the golden carriage. The 9 dragons instantly soared into the sky and sped towards the sky sword immortal sect. The feeling of riding a dragon is indeed different. Ling Xiao could not help but want to sing loudly. The speed was 70 miles per hour. His mood was the heavy mountain range flew under his feet, leaving long traces in the clouds. Ling Xiao held Yi Qingchan in his arms and breathed in the pure air thousands of miles high in the sky. His face was full of satisfaction. This was the enjoyment that villains should have. With a beauty in his arms and a nice carriage. It would be perfect if he could have a cup of wine. Soon, the 9 dragons descended from the sky and stopped in front of an ancient mountain gate. If it were in the past, Ling Xiao would most likely fly directly to the sword sect's main hall. But now, he felt that it was necessary to keep a low profile. Otherwise, he would end up being betrayed by his friends and family. Then, he would really be reaping what he sowed. We're here. Ling Xiao held Yi Qingchan's jade-like hand and walked down from the golden carriage with a dignified look on his face. At this moment, the disciples guarding the mountain saw the 2 uninvited guests and were all on guard. They held their spirit swords and looked like they were facing a great enemy. That young man looks a little familiar. It's the young master of the myriad Dao demon sect, Ling Xiao. Yes, 9 dragons pulling a carriage with a beauty by his side. It's Lord Ling Xiao's standard. Why is this little demon here? At this moment, although the disciples of the various immortal sects were talking, a bright smile appeared on their faces. What a joke. The person in front of them was a famous playboy in the Shengzhou. No, he was a prodigy. His status was even more noble than the Sky Sword Sect Master. They could not afford to slack off at all. Lord Ling Xiao, your presence brings light to the Sky Sword Immortal Sect. A burst of laughter suddenly came from the sea of clouds. Then, several elders in different clothes stepped out of the void and landed in front of Ling Xiao and Yi Qingchan. Chapter 66. In front of the Sky Sword Immortal Sect. An old man with white hair and a white beard and black robes cupped his hands towards Ling Xiao. Lord Ling Xiao, it is an honor for my Sky Sword Sect to have you here. So it's Elder Su. Greetings. Ling Xiao smiled gently, revealing a sense of humility and elegance. When this scene fell into the eyes of the group of Sky Sword Sect elders, their eyelids twitched again. When did this devil incarnate change his temperament? No, there must be a conspiracy. Although the Sky Sword Immortal Sect and the Danyuan Sacred Land had a good relationship, Ling Xiao's temper had always been to look down on everyone. Today, he suddenly came and showed such an abnormal side. He must be up to no good. This was the consensus of all the sects in the entire Shengzhou. Haha, young master, why don't we go into the hall for a chat? But no matter how unwilling the group of Sky Sword Sect elders were, they did not dare to neglect this young master. After all, behind him stood 3 forces stronger than the Sky Sword Immortal Sect. Elders, please. Ling Xiao nodded, reached out to hold Yi Qingchan's stiff little hand, and walked towards the top of the mountain. Young master is really amazing. You're respected wherever you go. At this moment, Yi Qingchan looked at the old men with terrifying auras beside her, her beautiful eyes full of splendor. How could she know that Ling Xiao was respected not because of his strength or character. It was because of his cruel, rude, and unbridled reputation, as well as the three great god emperors behind him. The group of figures rode on clouds and mist and came to a magnificent hall at the top of the mountain. The hall was built with blue stone and exuded an ancient aura. When Ling Xiao and the others entered the hall and took their seats, the disciples of the Sky Sword sect soon brought wine, water, and spirit fruits. They stood to the side and curiously sized up the famous Shengzhou young master. But what puzzled everyone was that Lord Ling Xiao did not seem to be as cruel and arrogant as the rumors said. Instead, he gave off a noble and easygoing feeling. The rumors were true. This Ling Xiao really knew how to act tough. Lord Ling Xiao, what brings you here today? That Elder Su's full name was Su Jibua, and he was the great elder of the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect. His cultivation had long since stepped into the God King realm. But right now, in front of Ling Xiao, he actually looked like he was being restrained. It couldn't be helped. After all, she had a good father and mother. Not to mention the Ling family's influence in the Shengzhou continent. The Heavenly Sword Immortal sect could not afford to provoke the Danyuan sacred land. Moreover, Ling Xiao was also the young master of the Universal Demon sect. He represented the face of the demon sect, so they naturally had to serve him carefully. I heard that the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect has been searching for a successor of the Sword Dao. It just so happens that I brought him here today. Elder Su, there's no need to thank me. Who asked our two sects to be so close? Ling Xiao grinned and took a sip of his wine. His foppish nature was fully revealed. Young master, are you talking about the young lady beside you? Elder Su's expression darkened. He was instantly defeated by Ling Xiao's shamelessness. Indeed, one could not judge a book by its cover. This young lady was obviously a good-for-nothing. At the age of 16, she was only in the spirit awakening realm. However, when he thought of Ling Xiao's reputation, Elder Su felt relieved. This young lady's talent was not good, but she was good-looking. Ling Xiao did not dare to arrange for her to stay with his parents, so he sent her to the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect. Well, it was very in line with this young master's style. Yes, Qing Chan's talent is rare in 100 years. Your Heavenly Sword Immortal sect is very lucky. If she didn't cultivate the Sword Dao, I wouldn't have given her to you. Ling Xiao smiled faintly and looked up at Yi Qingchuan. He did not hide the affection in his eyes at all. He was right. If the Ling family had a Sword Dao master, he would not have spent so much effort to send her to the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect to cultivate. Unfortunately, the Ling family's true strength was not in the Sword Dao. Hit the jackpot. A Sword Dao genius? Ahem. The expressions of the elders of the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect instantly became interesting. They wanted to laugh, but they did not dare to offend the young master of the Ling family. They could only cough to hide their embarrassment. Fine. Do you think our Heavenly Sword Immortal sect is stupid? Sending a good-for-nothing here and saying that she is a Sword Dao genius, rare in 100 years. Are you trying to cheat us of our resources? The Dawnfall Peak already has 100 disciples. I'm already old, so I don't have the heart to teach other disciples. I plan to go into seclusion and try to comprehend the power of Dao laws. I am not suitable. The 7 first seats and elders of the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect all found an excuse to reject Ling Xiao. This was a hot potato. Whoever wanted to take it could take it. If they did not teach her well, and this young master of the Ling family threw a tantrum, they could not afford it. What a coincidence. Lord Ling Xiao, my Dragonhorn Peak is suffering from the swine plague. I am also in a terrible situation. Su Jibwa laughed embarrassedly. There was a trace of helplessness between his brows. Although the excuse of others sounded fake, there was no way to refute it. What do you mean by suffering from the swine plague? Are you afraid of infecting others? Oh, that's really unfortunate. It seems that I can only send her to the 10,000 Swords Sacred Ground. Ling Xiao stood up and looked regretful. Oh, right. Qingchuan, what did you say you comprehended? Sword Dao laws? What? The 7 elders of the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect who had just relaxed widened their eyes. They looked at Yi Qing-chan in disbelief. Is it possible? An awakened person can comprehend the Sword Dao laws. Even among them, only the first elder, Su Jibwa, comprehended a trace of the Sword Dao origin and deduced the power of Dao laws. But if Ling Zhao's words were true, this young girl was not as simple as a peerless genius. She was simply a monster that only appeared once in 10,000 years. Lord Ling Xiao, please wait. Su Jibwa's old face darkened as he stood in front of Ling Xiao. Elder Su, is there something else? Ling Xiao pretended to be puzzled, while Su Jibwa squeezed out a smile. Young master, you said that this little girl comprehended something? Sword Dao laws. However, this doesn't seem to have anything to do with Elder Su, right? After Ling Xiao finished speaking, he held Yi Qing-chan's jade-like hand and was about to leave. Young master, wait! A trace of cold sweat appeared on Su Jibwa's head. If today his Heavenly Sword Immortal sect really missed a peerless monster who comprehended the Sword Dao laws of the Awakened God realm, he would commit suicide in the Ancestral Hall without the need for the sect master to do anything. Awakened God realm, Sword Dao laws. These were two completely unrelated words, but now that they were connected together, it was more or less a little absurd. At the same time, it also made Su Jibwa and the other elders of the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect feel an inexplicable anticipation. Elder Su, what do you mean by this? Are you trying to force me to stay? Ling Zhao's eyes turned cold, and the corners of his mouth curled into a mocking smile. I don't dare. I see that this girl is pure and has a good appearance. She is a good seedling for sword cultivation. Girl, this Qingke is my personal sword. Today, I will give it to you. Su Jibwa clenched his fist, and a dazzling green blade instantly appeared in his hand. It was a 3-foot-long divine sword engraved with complicated runes. Young master, Yi Qing-chan nervously glanced at Ling Xiao, feeling a little scared. These powerful figures of the Shenzhou continent were really generous. They would give away divine weapons at the drop of a hat. Whether it was the Qingke ancient sword or the golden silk feather robe, they could be said to be great fortunes in the Four Wilderness. As Lord Ling Zhao's little princess, she really didn't have to suffer. Chapter 67. It's hard to refuse Elder Su's kindness. What are you hesitating for? Take it. Ling Xiao smiled faintly, while Yi Qing-chan obediently held the ancient green tower sword. Buzz. Suddenly, a loud sword hum resounded throughout the entire sky Sword Immortal sect. Even the grand elders of the sword sect, who had been in seclusion for many years, suddenly opened their eyes and looked in the direction of the main hall on the top of the mountain. This the divine sword recognized its master. Sword Dao's Dao, law power. God bless our sky, Sword Immortal sect. The elders of the sky, Sword Immortal sect, were dumbfounded. Then, a series of exclamations resounded throughout the main hall. Everyone looked at the sword intent that was gradually surging from Yi Qing-chan's body, and their eyes were filled with indescribable excitement and shock. Sword Dao genius. What a great fortune! If a sect wanted to pass down its legacy from ancient times, it was one thing to have a foundation and a supreme expert, but the disciples were the foundation of a legacy. Although there were many experts in the Sky Sword Immortal sect, the talent of the disciples was slightly mediocre. And this little girl in the Awakened Spirit stage was the destined person that all the experts of the Sky Sword sect were looking forward to. As long as she could enter the Sky Sword Immortal sect in less than 10 years, no, in less than 5 years, the Sky Sword Immortal sect would definitely produce a monstrous disciple that would shock the entire Xingzhou. With her around, the Sky Sword Immortal sect would definitely stand at the peak of the Shenzhou for the next 100 years. Of course, if they were to find out that the strand of energy of the Dao laws in Yi Qing-chan's body was merely a strand of Ling Zhao's energy, then it was a mystery what sort of expression these elders of the sword sect would have. All right, Grand Elder, if there's nothing else, I'll bring Qing-chan to the 10,000 swords sacred ground. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. This group of old farts, I just told you that Ching Chan's talent was terrifying, but you all ignored me. Now you're showing such an expression. Do you think you're buying something in an auction house? You won't act unless you see a rabbit. Don't. It's not easy for Lord Ling Xiao to come to my heavenly sword immortal sect. Why don't you eat before leaving? I'll ask someone to prepare a banquet. I have some precious 100-year-old immortal wine that can nourish the spirit. Today, we won't leave until we're drunk. Elder Su chuckled and reached out to hold Ling Xiao's arm with a fawning look on his face. As the dignified great elder of the heavenly sword immortal sect, he usually had a cold, arrogant, and dignified demeanor in the sect. Would everyone seen him act like this? It was especially so for the disciples of the sword sect that stood within the hall. At this moment, their mouths were agape, and their faces were covered in disbelief as they gazed at the lowly figure. Didn't the Grand Elder always say that sword cultivators should walk righteously, sit upright, and not curry favor with those in power, and not bow and scrape? Why was his tongue sticking out at this moment? Let's skip the meal. Next time, Elder Su, please stay. Lord Ling Xiao. At this moment, an aged voice suddenly sounded from the top of the hall. Immediately after, a heart-palpitating sharp aura filled the air in an instant. Even with Ling Xiao's cultivation level, he felt a chill in his heart at this moment. He instinctively circulated the demonic aura around his body to resist the terrifying chill. Master of the Heavenly Sword Sect, Duan Wuyong. Ling Xiao narrowed his eyes slightly, but he was secretly laughing in his heart. The reason he gave Yi Qingchan a wisp of Dao Law power was that he hoped she would be recognized by this mighty figure of the sword sect and become his disciple. In the entire eastern border of the Shengzhou continent, Duan Wuyong's attainments in the sword Dao were second to none. With him personally teaching Yi Qingchan, it could be said that her talent was not wasted. So it's Sect Master Duan. Of course, he still had to fight for the resources and status that he should fight for. Otherwise, it would be too easy for the Heavenly Sword Immortal Sect. Lord Ling Xiao is indeed as handsome as the rumors say. You're indeed the role model of the Shengzhou continent's geniuses. It was customary to lick each other's boots first. But at this moment, there's a trace of surprise in Duan Wuyong's old eyes. He had naturally heard of Ling Xiao's fierce reputation long ago. But after seeing him today, he realized that this young man did not seem to be as useless and arrogant as the rumors said. In fact, his words and actions just now were clearly deliberate. His goal was naturally to obtain more benefits for Yi Qingchan. This was a very scheming young man who was decisive and courageous. He was not simple. Lord Ling Xiao, what do you think of letting this girl become my disciple? But no matter how much he schemed, it would be futile. Once Yi Qingchan entered the Heavenly Sword Immortal Sect, she would no longer be considered a member of the Ling family. In the future, would he still have to worry that this girl would run away with someone else? It's of course Qingchan's honor that Sect Master Duan is personally accepting a disciple. Qingchan, are you willing? Ling Xiao knew that in front of this old fox, there was no need for any acting skills, so he might as well get straight to the point and be frank. If you're willing, I'm willing. Yi Qingchan smiled shyly and stood in front of Ling Xiao with her head lowered, acting like a little girl. Seeing this, Duan Wuyong frowned and could not help but feel puzzled. With this girl's character, how did she comprehend a trace of the sword Dao principle? Everyone knew that a swordsman was a sword. Only with an indomitable momentum could one go far on this path. But looking at Yi Qingchan's appearance, forget it. The power of the Dao principle could not fool people. Yi Qingchan's bottom line was at least the divine king level. Haha, Sect Master Duan. If I enter the Heavenly Sword Immortal Sect, will I have a status? Ling Xiao nodded and looked calmly at Duan Wuyong. In this sect, the status of a disciple determined the distribution of cultivation resources. Outer sect disciples could only get a few elixirs a year, but inner sect disciples could receive offerings once a month. If one could become a true disciple and be appreciated by an elder, they could choose any elixir or treasure they wanted. Yi Qingchan came from the lower realm, so she naturally did not know these rules. However, Ling Xiao was not someone who liked to be taken advantage of. Haha, of course. Tomorrow, I will personally hold a disciple recruitment ceremony and announce the status of the saintess of the Green Cicada Sword sect. Duan Wuyong casually threw a bronze ancient token to Yi Qingchan. This token represents the sect master's dignity. You can go anywhere in the Heavenly Sword sect. All disciples who see this token will treat it as if they see me. Really? Thank you, Senior. Yi Qingchan was delighted. What was so attractive about the Heavenly Sword sect? She only wanted to go down the mountain to find Lord Ling Xiao when she had some success in cultivation. Still calling me Senior. Ling Xiao glared at Yi Qingchan, who blushed and bowed respectfully to Duan Wuyong. Master, am good? From now on, follow me and focus on studying the Sword Dao. Although Duan Wuyong was smiling, he still felt that something was wrong. No matter how he looked at it, this little disciple did not look like she really wanted to enter the Heavenly Sword sect. Forget it. Now that she was still mortal, it was normal for her to have some distracting thoughts. As long as she followed him, Duan Wuyong was confident that in a few years he would teach her to become a peerless genius who only cared about the sword. Chapter 68. Lord Ling Xiao, it's getting late. Why don't you stay here for the night and leave after watching my Sky Sword Sect's disciple recruitment ceremony tomorrow? Duan Wuyong said politely. Of course, he couldn't wait for this little devil to leave. For some reason, he felt uncomfortable when he saw Ling Xiao. This had nothing to do with cultivation or identity. He just felt that there was nothing good about this kid. Since that's the case, I'll reluctantly rest in your sect for the night. As for the disciple recruitment ceremony, I won't participate as an outsider. Ling Xiao smiled calmly. It wasn't that he didn't want to participate, but there was a reckless person in the Myriad Dao Demons sect waiting for him to deal with tomorrow. Shameless. Too shameless. The eyes of the Sword Sect elders trembled as they looked at Ling Xiao with disdain. Reluctantly. How dare he say that? This kid's shamelessness was indeed verified by the entire Xingzhou. Oh, by the way, Elder Su, you said something about 100-year-old immortal wine that can refresh one's mind and resist fatigue. When do you think we should start? I'm indeed a little tired after sending Qingchan all the way here. Hearing this, the Sky Sword Sect's first elder almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He was too careless. Today, not only did he lose a divine artifact, but he also had to take out his precious wine. The problem was that he didn't succeed in becoming a disciple. Since the sect master had spoken, he naturally didn't dare to snatch it. Su Jibua felt bitter, but he had already bragged, and he couldn't go back on his word in front of so many disciples. Ling Xiao might be shameless, but he still wanted his face. Young master, please wait a moment. I'll go back to the Dragonhorn Peak to get it. As he gazed at the trembling figure that walked out of the hall, Ling Xiao instantly shook his head and sighed with emotion. This Elder Su is a good person. For the sake of the Sword Sect's development, he can be said to have spared no effort. Qingchan, in the future, you must remember Elder Su's kindness in gifting you a sword today. In the distance, Su Jibua, who had already walked out of the hall, finally couldn't suppress the grievance in his heart and spat out a mouthful of blood. What's wrong with Elder Su? Why is there a sudden smell of blood? Ling Xiao turned his head and looked out of the hall with a surprised expression. His voice was filled with worry. At night, the main hall of the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect was filled with jubilation. Of course, the ones who rejoiced were Ling Xiao and the remaining Sword Sect elders. Only the great elder's face was gloomy. After drinking 2 cups of wine, he was drunk and unconscious. However, the immortal brew he brought was indeed not bad. When he drank it, it gave him a feeling of abundant spiritual energy. Hee, Lord Ling Xiao, how did you get no Qingchan? After 3 rounds of wine, Duan Wuyong, the sect master of the Heavenly Sword Sect, suddenly looked at Ling Xiao curiously. The entire Xingzhou knew that Lord Ling Xiao was domineering and dissolute, and any woman with some potential was unwilling to have too much to do with him. There were even rumors that the goddess of the ethereal Dao Palace was extremely opposed to her marriage with Ling Xiao. Although Yi Qingchan's cultivation level was lower, she didn't look like the kind of woman who fawned over those in power. Could it be that she had something she couldn't say? Of course, if it was before, Duan Wuyong definitely wouldn't offend Ling Xiao for a spirit awakening disciple. But now, since he had accepted Yi Qingchan as his disciple, he couldn't let her be coerced by others. I got to know Qingchan in the northern wilderness. Ling Xiao raised his cup and took a sip. This wine is really good. Elder Su, do you have any objections if I put 2 jars on my dragon carriage? Blurg, Su Jibwa, who was already drunk and disoriented, suddenly trembled and almost vomited the immortal wine he had drunk. However, no one knew if he was reluctant to part with the wine or if he didn't want to lose face in front of his disciple. In the end, he swallowed it back. Haha, looks like Elder Su has no objections. Thank you, Elder. Ling Xiao waved his hand, and the 2 remaining jars on the table disappeared. Sect Master Duan, your wine cups look very exquisite. Do you have any objections if I put 2 of them on my dragon carriage? No, no objections. Duan Wuyong sighed inwardly. His family was unfortunate. With the status and cultivation of the moon of Xianyuan and Ling Tianlin, how could they give birth to such a bastard? Ha! The Celestial Sword Immortal sect is full of good people. Looks like I'll have to visit more often in the future. I like to deal with good people the most. Ling Xiao smiled and nodded. Duan Wuyong and the other elders of the Celestial Sword Immortal sect narrowed their eyes and couldn't help but clench their fists. Clearly, they were trying hard to suppress the irritation in their hearts. Ancestor, if you come 2 more times, my Celestial Sword Immortal sect will be emptied out by you. If Ling Xiao hadn't really sent a monstrous disciple to the Celestial Sword Immortal sect this time, Duan Wuyong would have drawn his sword. In the end, the banquet ended after Ling Xiao had eaten his fill. Qingchan, accompany me around the Celestial Sword Immortal sect. Ling Xiao stood up and said goodbye to Duan Wuyong and the others. Then, he held Yi Qingchan's hand and left the hall. The 2 of them walked along the path of the Celestial Sword Immortal sect and stopped in front of an ancient forest at the top of the mountain. Qingchan, this is a voice transmission talisman. If you need anything, you can use this talisman to call me. Ling Xiao took out a talisman from his bosom and handed it to Yi Qingchan. Young Master. Yi Qingchan was slightly stunned, and a touch of emotion flashed through her beautiful eyes. At this moment, Ling Xiao didn't look drunk at all. There was even a trace of gentleness in the depths of his eyes. When I'm done with the sect and family matters, I'll come to see you. If you're bored, go to the Dan Yuan sacred land to find my mother. Ling Xiao stretched out his hand and gently rubbed Yi Qingchan's little face. He was somewhat reluctant to part with her. He didn't know if Yi Qingchan would still be the same Yi Qingchan the next time they met. Young Master, don't worry. I'll definitely cultivate well. Yi Qingchan's eyes reddened. She hugged Ling Xiao and pressed her face against his chest. Then I'll go find Young Master and never be separated from Young Master again. Yi Qingchan didn't say the last sentence out loud. She knew that she wasn't qualified to stand beside Ling Xiao now. But that day wasn't too far away. All right, it's not like we won't see each other again. Qingchan, look, the moon tonight is very beautiful. Ling Xiao gently patted Yi Qingchan's shoulder and looked up at the bright moon above. After today, he would really have to face the storm of the Xingzhou. Of course, since he came to this world, he wouldn't be easily stepped on by others. What's wrong with being a villain? Haven't you heard of the saying that villains live for 1,000 years? For the whole night, the 2 sat on the mountain peak of the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect, admiring the moon and chatting. It wasn't until the horizon lit up that Ling Xiao got up and woke up Yi Qingchan, who had fallen asleep in his arms. Qingchan, I'm leaving. Young Master. Yi Qingchan's tears flowed out at once, and her small hands clutched the corner of Ling Xiao's clothes tightly. It was only at this moment that she realized that parting was truly painful. Remember what you promised me. If one day you're strong enough, I'll come to pick you up. Ling Xiao lowered his head and gently kissed Yi Qingchan's forehead. This is my promise to you. With that, Ling Xiao didn't hesitate at all. He summoned the 9-dragon golden carriage and flew toward the horizon. Chapter 69. Young Master. Yi Qingqian clenched her fists and looked up at the disappearing dragon carriage. She bit her red lips, trying hard not to cry out loud. Hey, silly girl. Duan Weiyong's figure had unknowingly appeared behind Yi Qingqian. A trace of seriousness flashed across his old eyes. From the looks of it, this little disciple of his had already fallen deeply in love with Ling Xiao. But Ling Xiao's reputation was known throughout the Shenzhou. Even the women behind him were mostly attracted to him because of his identity and the good fortune he had. But how could Yi Qingqian have feelings for him? Qingqian, how did you and Ling Xiao? Cough, cough. How did you meet? Duan Weiyong almost blurted out the word bastard and hurriedly coughed to cover up his embarrassment. Master, it was young Master who brought me here from the northern wilderness. Young Master is very good to me and cares about me. Yi Qingqian's face gradually softened. At the mention of Ling Xiao, little stars seemed to twinkle in her eyes. The northern wilderness? Duan Weiyong was taken aback for a moment before he nodded in realization. No wonder this simple-minded girl would be attracted to Ling Xiao. It turned out that she didn't know about his reputation in the Shenzhou. In that case, her awakened spirit cultivation could be explained. Duan Weiyong secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the two had not known each other for long. It would not be long before Yi Qingqian knew about Ling Xiao's character and style. She would definitely loathe him. In that case, she would be able to focus all her attention on the way of the sword. At the same time, on the eastern border of the Shenzhou, on a steep, sword-like mountain, a graceful figure in white quietly stood at the top of the sword peak. Her bare feet made her look like a fairy. Her face was covered by a white veil, making it difficult to see her appearance. But her eyes, which were exposed by the white veil, were like a pool of clear water. As she looked around, she had an elegant and noble temperament that made people feel ashamed of their inferiority and not dare to profane her. At this moment, her beautiful brows were slightly knitted together, as if she was worried, causing others to feel pity for her. Qing Yun, there are only 3 more days until your engagement with Ling Xiao, the young master of the Ling family. You can leave the mountain tomorrow. Suddenly, a chuckle came from behind the white-clothed woman. A beautiful woman in a black Taoist robe stepped through the air and arrived behind her in just one step. The beautiful woman looked to be in her 30s or 40s, but her eyes were filled with the vicissitudes of life, giving people a sense of eternity. Master, the woman in white turned around and bowed to the beautiful woman. Her expression was indiscernible, but it was still somewhat cold. I know you don't want to marry him. The beautiful woman smiled faintly and walked over to the woman in white, gently helping her up. Our ethereal Tao palace cultivates the Tao of emotionlessness. Over the past few years, your beauty has spread far and wide, attracting the attention of countless geniuses. Master arranged this marriage for you, so that you can cut off your feelings and become emotionless. But Master, why him? The woman in white was even more puzzled. If she was emotionless, why would she marry someone else? Moreover, Ling Xiao was notorious for being dissolute, arrogant, and domineering. He was the most detestable of the younger generation in the Shenzhou continent. Nian Qingyun was unwilling. Even though she knew that this marriage was just an experience, Nian Qingyun felt humiliated at the thought of her name being mentioned together with his. Taishang, forget emotions. You need to experience emotions to be able to forget them. The beautiful woman in palace robes smiled faintly. She naturally had her reasons for choosing Ling Xiao. Putting aside his status, the young master of the Ling family was known to be lustful in the Shenzhou continent. Putting Nian Qingyun in front of him was like sending a lamb to a tiger's den. A man who had been with thousands of women was most suitable for experiencing emotions. This was Ling Xiao's retribution, and also Nian Qingyun's tribulation. More importantly, once Nian Qingyun became Ling Xiao's fiancée, the geniuses of the Shenzhou continent would naturally shrink back. After all, no one would be willing to provoke that little demon. In this way, Nian Qingyun would be able to comprehend emotions and avoid hatred, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Of course, in the entire Shenzhou continent, only the goddess of the ethereal Tao Palace would dare to use Ling Xiao to undergo a tribulation. Rather than one day Nian Qingyun's heart being moved by someone, it would cause her Tao heart to be covered in dust. It would be better to give her a marriage and let her see the dirty faces of men early. You grew up in the Tao Palace and have never experienced emotions between a man and a woman. Ling Xiao is dissolute and lustful and has groups of women around him. You can see the nature of a man from him. Go. Master will wait for your return. With that, the beautiful woman's figure disappeared. Nian Xingyun frowned and pondered for a while, but in the end, she did not ask any more questions and walked down the mountain alone. The mountain path was rugged, but the girl did not care. Her jade-like feet seemed to be walking on flat ground, and everywhere she passed, lotus shadows seemed to follow. Palace Master, are you really okay with letting Qingyun go down the mountain alone? At the top of the mountain, the beautiful woman in palace robes stood with her hands behind her back, quietly watching Nian Qingyun walk away alone. Behind her, an old woman with a stooped figure and a wrinkled face frowned. There was no aura around her, as if she had merged with the world. Chaotic times are coming, and monsters will come out in large numbers. No one can stay out of it. With Qingyun's talent, if she continues to cultivate in the Tao Palace, she will be able to comprehend the great Tao, but she will lack the decisiveness to kill. The great Tao is emotionless, and only when you have feelings can you forget them. This is the tribulation she must go through. A cold light flashed in the beautiful woman's eyes, and no emotion could be heard in her voice. But Ling Xiao, Ling people are powerful, and the myriad path demon sect is also supreme. But if Qingyun can sever the tribulation of love, the ethereal Tao Palace will definitely reach the peak of the Shenzhou continent in less than 10 years. When that time comes, a mere demon sect will not be worth mentioning. With that, the beautiful woman turned her head and looked deeply at the old woman. The corners of her mouth suddenly curled into a smile. I know Grand Elder is worried about Qingyun, but you and I are both women, and we have both been at Qingyun's age. If we don't experience it, how can we understand the true meaning of forgetting love? Sigh. I hope she will never understand. The old woman sighed, and her figure gradually faded. In the blink of an eye, she disappeared, leaving the beautiful woman alone on the mountain peak. Qingyun, I divine that your tribulation lies with Ling Xiao, but I don't believe it. I believe that you will be able to sever the threads of love and become supreme. Qingyun. When Nian Qingyun's figure appeared at the foot of the mountain, a young man in white suddenly walked over from the mountain path in the distance. The young man was dressed in white, and his starry eyes were sharp. He revealed a heroic spirit and a modest aura. His cultivation had faintly reached the Palong stage. He was powerful and unparalleled. Didn't I tell you to leave? Nian Qingyun frowned slightly. In addition to the coldness in her eyes, there was also a hint of killing intent. But, although the killing intent was biting cold, it was somewhat different. It seemed to contain a trace of embarrassment. It was hard to imagine that Nian Qingyun was such a cold beauty. She cultivated the great Tao of ruthlessness, but she actually revealed such an expression. Chapter 70. Qingyun, I know that you cultivate the heartless great Tao, but I also know that you have me in your heart. The white-clothed youth walked in front of Nian Qingyun with a smile on his face. Under the sunlight, his smile was clean and confident. Standing side by side with Nian Qingyun, he really looked like an immortal. Lin Shi, don't talk nonsense. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Nian Qingyun's pretty face turned cold, and a chill suddenly spread out from her body. The world seemed to freeze for a moment. Lin Shi only smiled and shook his head. Qingyun, I will prove to you that in the entire Shenzhou, only I am worthy of you. That Ling Xiao is just a playboy. How can he stand side by side with you? A gloomy look flashed across the youth's face, and there seemed to be flames dancing in his eyes. He had naturally come today because he had heard the news of Nian Qingyun and Ling Zhao's engagement. However, an arrogant and unreasonable ancient clan young master with a bad reputation was not worth mentioning in his eyes. Over the years, Lin Shi had trained in the Shengzhou, and his hand was stained with the blood of countless ancient clan young masters. In his opinion, those arrogant people were just stepping stones for him to ascend to the position of sovereign. The engagement was set by master. Ling people are also part of the ancient clan. I advise you not to seek your own death. Nian Xingyun took a deep look at Lin Shi and walked past him. Above his head, a black shadow suddenly soared into the sky and let out a loud and clear cry. Sure, you said you don't have me in your heart. You're clearly concerned about me. Lin Shi rubbed his nose, as if he was not surprised by the demonic figure above him. The corners of his mouth even curled into a smile. Nian Xingyun had never cared about the life and death of others. For her to say such words, it was clear that Lin Shi was indeed different in her eyes. The two of them had met a year ago. At that time, Lin Shi was just a disciple of a small family at the border of the Shengzhou. In order to raise his cultivation as soon as possible, he and his sword had gone to an ancient battlefield, where he had first met Nian Xingyun. At that time, Nian Xingyun was already a famous peerless genius in the Shengzhou. She was also known as the #1 beauty of all time. Therefore, she had never noticed an ant-like person like Lin Shi. But gradually, Lin Shi used his powerful trump cards to accumulate some reputation. This was only to let Nian Xingyun know that there was a name like Lin Shi in the Shengzhou continent. The battle that truly made Nian Xingyun recognize Lin Shi was the battle between him and the crown prince of the Skyfire Sacred Dynasty. Back then, the ancient battlefield was in the Skyfire Sacred Dynasty's territory. Therefore, Crown Prince Li Yuan was considered half a host. Everyone felt that it was impossible for a greenhorn to be a match for the Shengzhou Heaven Pride, Li Yuan. Moreover, there was a difference in their cultivation levels. From the very beginning of the battle, Lin Shi had been restrained in every way and was practically rubbed against the ground by Li Yuan. Blood dyed his robes red, and many bone-revealing wounds appeared on his body. Even so, the youth didn't retreat even half a step. He gritted his teeth and persisted. As it turned out, he had secretly used his trump card from the very beginning. In the end, under Li Yuan's carelessness, he managed to turn the tables and kill his opponent in one move. Because of this, Nian Xingyun became interested in him. He was determined, decisive, and smart. Despite being ridiculed everywhere, he never belittled himself. Later, Nian Xingyun's foot was bitten by a poisonous creature in a secret realm in the depths of the battlefield. Her entire body was paralyzed, and she was gradually surrounded by a demonic horde. At the most critical moment, Lin Shi descended from the sky and protected her for 2 full days without caring about his own life. Even when Nian Xingyun suppressed the poison in her body, Lin Shi didn't retreat a single step. His entire body was covered in blood, and he was already covered in wounds. Nian Xingyun didn't know how he managed to withstand the demonic horde alone, but Lin Shi became the first person she owed in her life. Just this point alone made the youth stand out from the rest. The two of them repelled the demonic horde together, and Lin Shi took the risk of being poisoned to control the power of the spirit fire to refine the remaining poison in her body. It could be said that Nian Xingyun's cultivation problem was resolved. In the following year, the two of them cultivated separately. Nian Xingyun returned to the ethereal Dao Palace and never left the mountain again. Lin Shi's name gradually spread throughout the Shengzhou. A few days ago, Nian Xingyun and Ling Zhao's marriage agreement came as promised. Only then did he rush over, wanting to see the goddess of the Dao Palace. Unfortunately, she rejected him. Lin Shi had suspected that she had never been moved by him. But when he saw the hint of hesitation in her eyes just now, the first time he saw her, he only knew that she was like jade, but when he saw her again, she was already his sweetheart. Elder Ling, are all the women of the ethereal Dao Palace so duplicitous? Lin Shi shook his head with a bitter smile. The great oblivion. A sigh suddenly came from the black ring on his finger. I don't want her to forget. Ling Xiao, a trash who only knows how to eat, drink, and lust. He only dares to show off in front of others. Since he wants to marry Qing Yun, I will trample him under my feet in front of the entire Shengzhou. Lin, she sneered, turned around, and followed Nian Qingyan. Cheer, you don't have to be so impatient. As long as you find the undying heart flame, you can smoothly enter the Pong stage. At that time, no matter which orthodoxy you join, you will be the best candidate for the position of saint. At that time, even if you are Ling people, there was some worry in Elder Ling's voice. No, I will never let Qingyun become someone else's wife, even if she is his fiancée. Lin, she shook his head, his voice filled with determination. Ling Xiao, what right does his name have to be mentioned together with Qingyun? I must let everyone know that only I, Lin Shi, am worthy of this goddess of the Tao Palace. Countless times in his dreams, he had imagined holding Nian Qingyun's jade-like feet and sucking the poison out with his own mouth. That wonderful smell mixed with a trace of earthy fragrance made him want to indulge in it. Sometimes, he couldn't even tell if it was a dream or if he had already had physical contact with the goddess. But Ling people and the myriad Tao demon sect are both top forces in the Shengzhou. If I was at my peak, I wouldn't be afraid of them, but now, Sai Shi'er, I am useless. Elder Ling, please don't say that. If it weren't for you, I would have been killed by my enemies. Don't worry, the Ling people see themselves as the most prosperous race in the Shengzhou. The Ling people will not easily interfere in the disputes between the younger generation. A gloomy look flashed across Lin Shi's eyes, but the corners of his mouth curled up in a mocking smile. Besides, I won't kill him. Sai, all right. Since you have already made up your mind, I won't persuade you anymore. The undying heart flame is about to be born, and this spirit fire is somewhat different from the one you fused with before. Perhaps you can use this as an opportunity to comprehend the laws of fire. When the time comes, you can find a place to focus on cultivation. Ling people won't be able to find you even if they want to take revenge. From the conversation between the two, it seemed that they didn't care about Ling Xiao at all. But this was also true. Although Ling Xiao was extremely famous in the Shengzhou, it was mostly because of his identity and background. As for his cultivation, with the #1 alchemist in the Shengzhou as his mother, even if he was a pig growing up eating spirit pills, his cultivation level wouldn't be too low. Although Ling Xiao had the identity of the young master of the myriad Tao demon sect, there were very few people who had actually seen him in action. After all, there were so many bootlickers around him. Usually, if there was a problem, the dogs would be sent out to settle it. When had it ever been Ling Xiao's turn to personally take action? Therefore, in the eyes of the majority of the true geniuses in the Shengzhou, Ling Xiao was just an arrogant and despotic second generation. Usually, no one dared to provoke him, but once he made a move, there was an 80% chance that he would be trampled to death. How could a genius born from a pile of spirit pills compare to a monster like Lin Shi, who had experienced life and death situations? Moreover, even the true young masters of the ancient sects and the successors of the Shang stage didn't dare to underestimate Lin Shi's trump card. In his opinion, crushing Ling Xiao to death was simply a piece of cake. In 3 days, I will let the entire Shengzhou know my name. Chapter 71. Achu. In the eastern border of the Shengzhou continent, Ling Xiao suddenly sneezed. The 9 dragons below him trembled and turned back to size up their master with some fear. Who's scolding me? Ling Xiao raised his wine cup and took a sip of wine. His face was slightly flushed. It was almost noon, and they were 2 hours away from the myriad Tao demon sect. Ling Xiao stretched his body, stood up, and looked into the distance. The myriad Tao demon sect. I haven't been back for a long time. I wonder if my senior brothers, sisters, and junior sisters miss me. Senior brother Qin Feng came out of seclusion at the peak of the myriad Tao demon sect's main mountain range. Many youths in black were running around, and their faces were filled with ecstasy. Today is the day senior brother Qin Feng challenges Ling Xiao. There's going to be a good show. Senior brother Qin was in the middle stage of the mystic clear stage before he went into seclusion. After half a month, he has probably entered the late stage. That's too scary. Senior brother Qin is indeed the great elder's disciple. Let's see how Ling Xiao deals with him later. TSK. Whether he dares to come or not is another matter. Didn't you hear what our senior brothers said? Ling Xiao hasn't returned to the sect for a long time. He probably went back to the Ling people to hide, right? A group of myriad Tao demon sect disciples gathered together and sneered. Although they were all extremely humble in front of Ling Xiao, they couldn't do anything about it. After all, he was the young master of the Ling people, and his parents were famous experts in the Shenzhou continent. No one would have a good ending if they offended someone with such an identity. But to be honest, in the entire myriad Tao demon sect, there were no more than 5 people who truly acknowledged Master Ling Xiao's identity. Half a month ago, the great elder's disciple, senior brother Qin Feng, issued a challenge to Ling Xiao and agreed to fight at the peak of the Phantom Mountain. Although Ling Xiao agreed on the surface, he turned around and ran away. He disappeared for half a month, and there was no news of him. In many people's eyes, Ling Xiao was most likely going to ask his mother for medicinal pills or go back to the Ling people to prepare the spiritual treasures. However, no matter how many spirit treasures he had, they were useless in the hands of a piece of trash. As for the medicinal pills, it was indeed quite ferocious to take them in the beginning. He would definitely not feel tired from all the different positions, but it was easy to feel weak after taking too much. At the back of the mountain, a young man in golden clothes slowly walked over. His aura was vigorous, and every step he took left a faint mark on the hard green rock. Junior brother Qin. Another black-robed young man appeared in the distant forest. The young man looked a bit older, and he had a warm and benevolent smile on his face. However, his aura was even more terrifying than Qin Feng's. Senior brother. When he saw this person, a wisp of a smile appeared on Qin Feng's face, and he bowed respectfully. A breakthrough. Yes, today I will definitely trample Ling Xiao under my feet. Qin Feng smiled faintly, his brows brimming with confidence. That's right. How can our myriad Tao demon sect let a piece of trash sit on the position of young master? Right now, many sects are laughing at us in private. This time, many people are watching you challenge Ling Xiao. The black-robed young man waved his hand and took out an item from his bosom. I heard that junior brother Qin has some feelings for junior sister. However, that hateful Ling Xiao uses his position as young master to find excuses to keep junior sister Fu by his side all day long. Today, if you can trample Ling Xiao under your feet in front of her, I think junior sister Fu will also be moved by you. Senior brother Qin Feng smiled bitterly. He looked at the brown ancient cauldron in the black-robed young man's hand and frowned slightly. That Ling Xiao's strength is definitely not as strong as junior brother's, but he has many treasures on him. I obtained this primordial cauldron during the myriad sect martial meeting. I'll lend it to junior brother for now. Junior brother, you can use it at a crucial moment to determine victory or defeat. Senior brother, in the eyes of the other junior brothers, you are the best candidate for the position of young master. Don't worry, this time I will definitely defeat Ling Xiao. At that time, the sect master and the other elders will definitely not let a piece of trash continue to be the young master. Qin Feng was very moved. He looked at the black-robed young man with admiration in his eyes. Junior brother, what are you saying? If you can defeat Ling Xiao, the position of young master will naturally be yours. Actually, I don't care about these empty titles. I just don't want the disciples of the myriad Tao demon sect to be unable to raise their heads wherever they go. The black-robed young man earnestly placed the cauldron in Qin Feng's hand. Senior brother, back then, if you hadn't saved me from that secret realm, I'm afraid I would have already died. This junior brother will never forget this kindness. Don't worry, when the time comes, I will voluntarily give the position to you. Qin Feng put away the cauldron, and his expression gradually became serious. Back then, when the direct disciples of the myriad Tao demon sect went down the mountain to train, Qin Feng was indeed trapped in a secret realm and was unable to escape. In order to protect himself, Ling Xiao used a space-time talisman to escape. If it weren't for this senior brother in front of him, Qin Feng most likely would have died. Although the Qin family wasn't as powerful as the Ling people, they were still somewhat famous in the Shenzhou continent. Today, he challenged Ling Xiao. As long as he won fairly, the Ling people wouldn't be able to say anything. I'm very satisfied that Junior Brother has such intentions. Hurry up and go, it's almost time. Although the black-robed young man had a bitter smile on his face, his heart was surging. Ling Xiao, although I don't dare to personally attack you, I can casually use some methods to make you lose your footing in the myriad Dao demon sect. A demon sect young master who was defeated by a direct disciple. Just thinking about it made him want to laugh. Senior Brother, aren't you going? The sect leader asked me to go to the ancestral hall to meditate today, so I won't go. The black-robed young man shook his head with a regretful expression. But Junior Brother, don't worry. Senior Brother's heart will always be with you. What a joke. That Ling Xiao might not be worth shit, but his status was there for all to see. What good would come of slapping his face? The Qin family was somewhat famous, but it wasn't worth mentioning in front of the Ling people and the Danyuan sacred ground. Qin Feng wanted to be the young master? Just thinking about it made him want to laugh. Thank you, Senior Brother. Then Senior Brother can wait for my good news in the ancestral hall. Qin Feng bowed once more, and then he walked with steady steps towards the hall. Junior Brother Qin, don't blame me for tricking you. I'm doing this for the sake of the sect. Don't worry, as long as I can become the young master, I will definitely take care of the Qin family in the future. The black-robed young man sneered and looked at Qin Feng as if he was looking at a dead man. He believed that Ling Xiao couldn't win against Qin Feng, but he also believed that Qin Feng wouldn't live to see tomorrow. This was good too. He would let people see Ling Xiao's cruelty. How could a demon sect young master who couldn't win against a direct disciple and only knew how to take revenge on a fellow disciple be trusted? Killing two birds with one stone. At most, he would lose a middle-grade divine artifact. The black-robed young man finally couldn't suppress the joy in his heart. He turned and walked in the opposite direction while humming a tune. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.